Honorable members, please be reminded that the motion before the House is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow the sum of EC for the 2,400,000 from the Bank of St. Lucia Limited for the purpose of financing the 2018-2019 budgets in the amounts of A, EC 24,300,000 to finance the National Sports Infrastructure Strategy and Action Plan, and B, EC 8,100,000 to finance the 2018-2019 budget. Be it further resolved that A, the interest on each loan amount is payable at a rate of 4.5% per annum. B, a commitment fee of 1% is payable on the establishment of each loan amount. C, the loan amount of EC 24,300,000 is repayable at EC $1,518,750 per quarter for 4 years, inclusive of the interest up to EC $308,576.71 per quarter on a reducing balance basis. And D, the loan amount of EC $8,100,000 is repayable at EC $506,250 per quarter for 4 years, inclusive of interest up to EC $102,859.90 per quarter on a reducing balance basis. Honorable members, the issue before us is the issue of documents and whether documents can be tendered and the documents of this House. It is right that there is an obligation on ministers to tender or make before this House available documents, official documents that they're going to refer to. So this is not a question, and I don't even have to ask, and I should not have to ask any minister to so tender a document that he has in his capacity as a minister to so tender this document. The problem we have is when we have non-minister members wanting to tender documents. The problem with that, and as I rightly said, that if a member is going to make reference to a document, I need to verify that this is the document he's referring to. I cannot simply allow a member to just flash in there, I have this document, and he may be saying or quoting things from a document which may be in itself fictitious or may not even be. I would want to think that all members are so honorable that they will not do this to this honorable House. The document before me that a member for Castries South is looking to make reference to is a document he has so indicated that is a contract between the government of St. Lucia and the Packer Company. In the document, though the name Government of St. Lucia is so written, and the Packer Company is so written, the details as to who the parties of these documents are is yet to be ascertained by me, because somewhere in the document, on the face of the document, it says that acting herein and represented by blank. As the same thing, another place also acting herein and so represented by blank on the second part. Further, some pages are missing, so we start from one page from 3, we jumped over to 5 and 6 without making reference. Now, in my practice as a legal counsel, though I don't advise myself as Speaker of the House, one thing that I was so informed and so taught, you do not put signatures only on one page, you must also attach other parts of a document to the other parts so that you could see there is a continuation of a document. On that basis, Honorable Member for Castries South, I will so rule that I'm not going to allow you to so tender this document as an official agreement between the government of St. Lucia and the Packer Company.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But I note your words. You will not allow me to tender it as a document of the House. But just like you quoted from Mays in terms of the responsibility of ministers to submit documents, I can still, as a member who's not part of the government, I can cite the document. I am not required, as you rightfully said, to tender it as a document of the House, but I can refer to it according to the same section of Mays that you read a short while ago. So if you allow me, I will refer to it, but it does not have to become a document of the House.
I will also not allow you, honorable member, to quote and to enter this document. I'm not saying you cannot say you have this document and reference your document, but I cannot allow you to quote anything from this document to so enter into the record of this honorable.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I shall not prolong this issue, Mr. Speaker. The point at which we broke, Mr. Speaker, I was making reference to the engagement of the Parker Company, which a member from Miku South indicated this morning, had in fact been done. We've not been told exactly what was the cost of the engagement with the Parker Company. It has not been declared to us how much money was paid for phase 1 to the Parker Company. And we are still not being told in this honorable House how much money is being paid to the Parker Company for phase 2. And one may question whether documents are authentic or not. And I actually believe, Mr. Speaker, a mountain is being made out of a molehill, Mr. Speaker. But that's not my headache, Mr. Speaker. The fact is, no one wants to declare to this House, and I think if we've been asked, Mr. Speaker, to approve a motion to borrow money for the implementation of the strategy and plan, which includes the project management services, at least it is fair and reasonable that we are informed of exactly how much the consultant was paid for the first phase and for the second phase. Mr. Speaker, that's even more critical against the background where I presented that at least 3 major sporting facilities in this region were built, were designed and project managed by St. Lucians. And I think that it is fair. And I'm glad that the honorable member from Grosley agreed of the necessity to use local talent, Mr. Speaker. Mr.
Speaker, a point of order. We are in this honored House to seek permission to borrow the money. And this House is here to discuss the terms of those borrowings. That is what we're here at this House. I don't know that there's any requirement, Mr. Speaker, for this House to be involved in who is being engaged and who's being paid what. What we are here for is to discuss the borrowing from the Bank of St. Lucia for the sum of $32 million. And what we were required to do is to put, because it's a guarantee. So what we're doing is giving that guarantee, and we've given the terms of what those payments are. The details in terms of who he wants.
This is not a guarantee.
Honorable member.
There are other methods. If in fact the member from Castries South wants those answers, there are other methods available to him to be able to pursue those questions. But he should not mislead this House in any way to believe that we're here to discuss those things, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister, the resolution, in my mind, we have been here to authorize the borrowing of 42,400,000. The member, we must always remember, the member is a member is a member of the opposition. Not being a member of cabinet, so he will not be privy to some things. So he will, within his own capacity, there's some things he'll want some answers to, and question some things. It is he may question you, but you may, or the minister may choose not to provide the answer in the manner he's asking. But he can question something because he's a member of the opposition trying to solicit answers from the government. There are, under our standing orders, for formal questions to be asked, and it's an option that he has that he can so wish to utilize.
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided, and I just ask for your further guidance. The suggestion by the member from Castries South is that we're obligated and we came here to discuss that. The fact is that there is a motion on the floor which speaks specifically to the amount of money we're going to borrow and the terms. Clearly, he is allowed to ask questions about it, but the fact is giving the suggestion that this side is withholding that information.
Let's proceed to bring this motion to conclusion.
Mr. Speaker, if you are asked to approve the borrowing of $30 million and you're now being told you must not ask what it is going to be used for, I think that's against the spirit of, being in the House. Is against the spirit of the standing orders. But, Mr. Speaker, let's move on because there are more important points to be made. So, facilities are also being built, Mr. Speaker. We don't even know how much each facility will cost. And I believe we heard a comprehensive presentation from the member from Miku South, a presentation from the member from Rosalie. It would be instructive, Mr. Speaker, which is why I started off asking that I would love to see the presentation by the Minister of Sports before I spoke. Because at least I would see that Miku South Complex would cost X amount, Sufre Mini Stadium would cost X amount, I would know A&E fees, consultancy fees would cost X amount. And I said so. I find it extremely difficult to vote against money for the advancement of sports in this country. But I'm being told that I cannot even ask what the money is to be spent on. But, Mr. Speaker, the member from Rosalie gave the assurance that at least $20 million will be spent on construction. I will take that and move on, Mr. Speaker. But I would say to you, Mr. Speaker, that I know the individual involved, Mr. Don Lockerbie. I've worked with him. And I will give some credit to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister can sell a lot of stories. He can sell a lot of things. Some people say he's a very good marketer. Mr. Don Lockerbie is a very good venue development specialist. He's very good. He is. I've worked with him. He's also very good at selling stories and visions of how things can be. I worked with him. During Cricket World Cup, Mr. Speaker, we were told in this region about the necessity to build those huge cricket grounds and how they would bring so much tremendous results for us, and Cricket World Cup would bring in so much. Those stories were sold to us. And the legacy, Mr. Speaker, a lot of it was true, but there was a lot, and I bought it. That's why he will not fool me twice. That's right. That's why he will not fool me twice. That's why he will not fool me twice. And he has a very famous saying, you must think big, you must have vision. And I too went on tours with him, Super Bowl, Jacksonville. And let me tell you, sitting with the gentleman is always an exceptionally pleasant exercise. You know, when you hear historically about somebody who can sell snow to the Eskimos, he can do that. But he's also a very good development specialist. You cannot deny that. But a lot of what he proposes are not really relevant to our region and to St. Lucia. Because in St. Lucia, we resisted spending the amount of money they told us to spend at Beausejour at that time. We neither did. We spent money. I'm not denying we spent money. But let's not go into that. I don't want to open that thing because up to this day, the audited statements have never been tabled in this House. But let's not go there. That's not for today. So, 80 million. The audited statements are there. And, Mr. Speaker, but let's not fight that battle today. So a lot of islands spend millions of dollars building huge stadiums. Go to Antigua because we were told that's where it's going. The same gentleman tried to convince the ICC that cricket should be played on artificial turf. That cricket should be played on artificial turf, and he can get one design for it to be played on artificial turf. Of course, the ICC, in its wisdom and its research, decided that was not acceptable. And as a CEO of West Indies Cricket, I sat many times in Dubai in discussions as to whether that even made sense. USACA, United States Cricket Association, employed the same gentleman as CEO because he sold them this grand vision. He is going to transform cricket in America. After a year and a half or so, they asked him, they parted company, because they realized what he was saying, that you would have those magnificent stadiums with artificial turf and drop-in pitches, and cricket will be paid throughout the year in all the snow outside. And he's very good at that. He's very good at that, Mr. Speaker. He's very good at that. And he comes to St. Lucia and he sells a vision. Huh? Yes. That the Dyer Mall will be a Madison Square Garden, whatnot, Mr. Speaker. And I even think, Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister, members, Miku Saw can probably help me. Didn't his son even come here to play at jazz, Mr. Speaker? His son, I think, he even convinced persons in jazz in St. Lucia that his son should play at the jazz festival here in St. Lucia. And I think he was supposed to play here at the jazz festival. That's how good he is, Mr. Speaker. That's how good he is. So you can understand, Mr. Speaker. You can understand, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, all what I am saying here, I've said to him personally, because I do have a lot of regard for his expertise. But I will keep saying to him over and over, what he believes in, what he's selling, is not for our small island in St. Lucia. Temper it. Obviously, he was not tempered in this instance, Mr. Speaker. Because when I look at some of the drawings that I've seen, Mr. Speaker, and I think my colleague from Denry North touched on some of it, and I'll repeat it. I believe we need to improve facilities in St. Lucia. But the idea that you will now transform certain facilities and use artificial grass, Mr. Speaker, I think is flawed. And the member from Denry North said so. And he gave a number of reasons. And the member from Grosley responded. So let me just take you through some of what the member from Grosley said. I think the member from Grosley is saying that what was expressed is not entirely wrong. However, the science and technology of artificial turf has progressed sufficiently, in his view, to give him satisfaction. And I still disagree with him. He's right. The technology and the science has improved. But FIFA, up to this day, still refuses to approve the use for artificial turf for official football. And I can tell you, up to 2 years ago, the Women's World Cup for FIFA, was held in Canada. And Canada applied, and I'll remind the Honorable House, a young lady called Cindy Emmanuel McLean from Miku South actually worked for FIFA in that Women's World Cup. And they wanted to use artificial turf, and FIFA did not agree. And look at football. Those of us who watch Premier League, Bundesliga, all of that, do you see any matches being played on artificial turf? Do you ever see any World Cup football being played on artificial turf? MLS is played on artificial turf. Mr. Speaker, because the technology is not so advanced to overcome some of the issues, and this morning the member from Grosley actually explained to us the mechanics of how it is injuries are precipitated when you play on artificial surfaces. And he's right, the technology has improved, but it is not good enough. The second point on the artificial turf is you cannot play cricket on artificial turf. So even if it has been improved for football, it definitely is a no-no for cricket. It's a definite no-no for cricket. So consider what's happening in Soufrière now. In Soufrière, Mr. Speaker,
on a point of order. Again, the member from Castries South is bringing information to this House again that he's misleading the House. The Canadian Women's FIFA was played on artificial turf, all of the matches.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, can I move on, please? Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker,
you see, this is a Prime Minister is indicating that you're misleading because he is of the opinion, or whether he has evidence to support it, that the matches were played. You indicating, I don't think I could verify that. So, unless we want to back and forth.
Okay. So, what do you want me to do? Withdraw it? Okay, Mr. Speaker.
That is your
member from Miku South.
That is your turn.
Oh. Don't withdraw? Well, Mr. Speaker. So the member of Miku South says all matches in the FIFA Women's World Cup was played on artificial turf. We probably understood it differently. Maybe I misread, maybe I was misinformed, and he's correct. So we will move on. But the point is, Mr. Speaker, no football match in the Premier League in England is played on artificial turf. None in Syria is played on artificial turf. None in Germany is being played on artificial turf. No men's football World Cup has been played on artificial turf. And there's a reason for that, Mr. Speaker. There's a reason for that. So let's put the injuries aside. The issue of heat was raised. In the afternoon, the heat on those artificial surfaces are significant. And the member from Grizzly again explained how the heat can cause abrasions and how serious it can be. But he says he thinks the technology has advanced enough, he can live with it. Issues of runoff, because you have to understand how the artificial turf is constructed. And when you water it regularly, the runoff that comes and the drainage to carry that, you have to be careful where the runoff goes. You have to be careful where the runoff goes. These are rubber chips that is there. And when the heat, because in temperate countries, it's not a problem, you know, Mr. Speaker. In temperate countries, it's not a problem. But in tropical countries, it's a problem. You think it's not by accident, there is not a plethora of artificial turf in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Barbados. Barbados has one for hockey. For hockey. There's a reason why, Mr. Speaker. And then, Mr. Speaker, the issue of maintenance came up. And the member from Grosley said that he believes it is cost more expensive to maintain the natural grass than the artificial turf. He's right to the extent that he says, if he says the cost of a world-class natural grass surface and a world-class artificial turf will be about the same to maintain, world-class. And that's important, world-class. And I'll tell you why. No, you didn't say world-class. I'm telling you, you're right if you say world-class. But if it's not world-class, it's cheaper to have grass. It's cheaper than to have an artificial turf. Because the disparity in the quality of the surface between a community field and a world-class grass field is more, that disparity is greater than an artificial turf, world-class and community. Is it? Was it all? And so, Mr. Speaker, when we were building Beausejour, Mr. Speaker, when we were building Beausejour, the standard of outfields in the Caribbean was at a low standard. We decided in St. Lucia we were going to revolutionize the outfield. And for the first time in the Caribbean, we introduced a sun cap for cricket. A sun cap, which would enhance drainage. We decided we wanted to have the best grass. And Trinidad had just hosted the FIFA Under-17 World Cup, and 5 stadia were built by Terraforma. And they came up with a hybrid grass from Trinidad, Bermuda 249, that they use. And it was an exceptional grass, which thrived in our conditions. And we decided that we were going to use that grass for Beausejour. It's a grass that grows more horizontal than vertical. That grass is a very special grass. A very special grass. To maintain it costs money. And like the member from Grosset said, the frequent aeration and fertilizing whatnot and cutting of it. But it's one of the best outfields for cricket in terms of diving and sliding. But it is not a grass that you will put on every playing field. You will do it at your field where you play international cricket, which is why when VG was being redone, and I told the guys, do not put that Bermuda grass there because it is not very resistant to the pad pool and the local, aggressive weeds we have. And if you do not spend money maintaining it, it will be overrun. It will take so much to maintain it. Same thing, many other playing fields. Guys, everybody wants the grass there is at the Darren Sammy ground. But that's a world-class venue, and to maintain that world-class surface will cost money. But our local savanna grass can work in our community playing fields, and it is so resilient, the pad pool and those other things will never overrun it. Look at Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. You can virtually stand in the stands and see all the different shades of green. Pad pool that's infesting the ground like this, and it takes so much to get it out. In fact, we've reached a stage where the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground has to be resurfaced So if you have a lower standard surface, and again, at Boseju, we had about 3 inches of sun. After us, Guyana put 8 inches, so virtually a storm can pass in Guyana, and within half an hour, you can start a cricket match because there's so much sun. You do not have to have sun caps on all our playing fields. So yes, it can be equally expensive, but it can also be cheaper depending on the quality of field that you put in place. But there's also another point, Mr. Speaker. Look at Soufre, for example. So Soufre has a playing facility. It can accommodate a 400-meter track. It can accommodate cricket. Now, I'll tell you something, Mr. Speaker. When you put a 400-meter track on the playing field, where do you play the cricket? You recognize the space is severely reduced. It becomes oval. So your cricket field now is severely reduced. And in fact, and the members from Dennery South and Gross, they can correct me, a 400-meter track with a football field in between is the minimum size football field that's acceptable for football. The minimum size field that's acceptable for football. For you to have an international size, you actually should not have a 400-meter track, which is why no football stadium that's been built now, they allow you to have a 400-meter track. At Wembley in England, there's actually an arrangement in place, not Wembley, London Stadium, where you can remove the seats and expand to allow the facility to be used. So there's an issue with Soufre. It means now you're going to put artificial turf in Soufre, but you cannot play cricket there anymore. So the member announced this morning that they go into some place called where, Rablo, or what's it? Rubel or somewhere, where they will now have to build a new cricket field. And with that new cricket field comes new stands, new changing rooms, new seating. But you had a facility that you can essentially use, but because you put in artificial turf, you now have to disband it and create a new cricket field. But there is another issue you have to consider. There was burning flames in Soufre last month, and before that there was another concert where you can have a concert in a playing field with natural grass. Guys can drink, break a bottle, you smoke, you drop your cigarette, you crush it. Will you do that on artificial turf? Will you do that on artificial turf? Will you allow a concert on a playing facility that has artificial turf, where guys may break bottles, guys may smoke out their cigarettes? Yes, you do. Well, I guess you will. But I hope you realize the cost of maintenance and repair now increases significantly. American Airlines? No. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, you know, we can talk about America where there's no smoking in indoor arenas, whatnot. It's a different thing when you have a Jacquier show down in Soufre on the artificial turf surface. It's a different experience. So, Mr. Speaker, those things have to be considered. So yes, I heard what the member said, but when you're going to remove playing fields, convert playing fields in Miku and in Dennery and in Grosile cricket field and put artificial turf, I think we need to think long and deep about that. Not whether it should be upgraded and saying, you know, not whether we should upgrade it, but like I said at the start of my presentation, I think we'll have disagreement with the details of exactly how it is done and what it is done. Mr. Speaker, a point was made by the member for Dennery North, and he spoke, Mr. Speaker, about community fields, and the member from Grosile kind of ridiculed it, but he was making a different point to what the member for Grosile reacted to. I think he was making a point that we cannot abandon the community fields, the fields like Bexar playing field, the Cicero playing field, the Buto, you know, those are community fields used by communities. And not that the community should not have an upgraded facility like the Soufre Mini Stadium. We think Soufre should have an upgraded mini stadium. We think so. But you should not abandon the small fields dotted throughout this country. Now, the member made a very significant point, and it is something that has always challenged me in sports. The idea that our generation, this generation has, and I think the Prime Minister might have called it fast food something. And it's true. Young people do not want to leave here and go to VG playing field to go and practice and train and play. They want to know the playing field is right there in their corner. Which is why during the heyday of the Bulls and Michael Jordan, everybody was putting up a little rim in their backyard and on the bridge so they can play basketball. Nobody wants to go to the court down the road anymore because they want it right there on the block with them. And it's a serious point. But our culture in St. Lucia is such that you will not ask young men living in Cicero to go to VG playing field to play or to go to Marshall playing field to play. And especially when they know there is a small community field right there. That community field has to be maintained. And we're moving in a day and age where sports, and we just said here this morning by members opposite, that is gender neutral. We don't have male sports and female sports anymore. So now when we have grassroots football programs, and you're going to have one in Susera sooner or later, you have to make provisions for the young girls who will be playing there every Saturday and on evenings. Not going to ask them to go in the bush and change their clothes and to, you know, do whatever they have to do. You're not going, young men can do that. Not that they necessarily should do it. You understand? But the community playing fields are important too. And I think that was the point the member was making. Not that we should not have great community playing fields. So, Mr. Speaker, this strategy needs to be reflective of our culture and how we respond to our culture. I heard we have 150 playing fields, and almost as if that's a curse. It's not a curse, Mr. Speaker. It's a burden, but it's not a curse. And we should not seek to reduce the 150 to 40 facilities. I think that's the wrong way to go. And I'll explain why in a few minutes. So I think this is flawed from this perspective. Mr. Speaker, I believe, and I started off by saying, we needed to have a sports policy that really outlines our objectives and where we're going, what our priorities are. And out of that, we come up with a strategy, and then we have the work plan, the implementation plan. Because, Mr. Speaker, what is our objective for sports in this country? Is our objective healthy lifestyles and maximum participation? Is our objective to produce elite athletes that can win medals and win world championships for us? What's our objective? If you're going to spend $30-odd million, what's the objective, Mr. Speaker? What do we want to produce in 5 years, in 10 years? And the Prime Minister speaks of money for programs, and you must have programs. You must have programs. But what is the objective, Mr. Speaker? If you must tailor your investment in the facilities and in the programs towards a desirable outcome, you have to. You have to, Mr. Speaker. So I'm asking, with this strategy and this plan, what is the desired objective? And we just had the social labs and the economic labs and the PMANDO. I would love to know what came out of that. Because before you even decide from PMANDO what the outcomes will be, you're already implementing action. So how does it dovetail? How does it fit in? So, Mr. Speaker, I believe one of our biggest hindrances in St. Lucia is the absence of a sports culture, Mr. Speaker. What's dropped today? Yeah, Mr. Speaker, and I just need to correct, Mr. Speaker, because my colleagues are just indicating to me that, in fact, Germany, Brazil, and Spain filed a lawsuit in Canada that demanded that FIFA and the Canada FA to install natural grass in the six arenas for the World Cup. But it came too late, and the lawsuit had to fall by the wayside. So they probably end up playing. But I know that there were serious issues. I sat at a symposium where that was discussed. So I knew there was an issue. But moving forward, the point has been made, Mr. Speaker, that the natural grass is preferred over the artificial. So let me concede, Mr. Member of for Mico South that you were partly right. But the point remains. Yeah, 110 right. Yeah. No, but the point is made, Mr. Speaker. So we have to address the issue of a sports culture in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. A sports culture. And Mr. Speaker, if you recall, before 1997, we were not playing international cricket in St. Lucia. We had no national stadium with a synthetic track. The members on the other side who were track and field athletes came out of running on grass, barefooted. Imagine if they had a synthetic track. I said earlier they got distracted along the way. They did not become gold medal Olympians, Mr. Speaker. But just imagine if those gentlemen had grown up learning to run on synthetic track. They learned to run on grass at Mindo Phillip Park. And all of that was before 1997. Mr. Speaker, I've had the honor to work in every Caribbean island in sports. And I have seen the public response to sports in other islands compared to St. Lucia. And our sports culture is very underdeveloped in this country. And the member from Mico North made the point, and even the member from Mico South spoke about the attitudinal change and what's needed. So we need to work on having a sports culture, Mr. Speaker. But one of the critical things for a sports culture, Mr. Speaker, is that it must first start off with the issue of participation. We have to get every single child in St. Lucia, unless you have a certifiable reason for you not to participate in sports, you must be made to participate in sports. Right, that comes after, yeah. No, we have to incentivize them, yeah, Mr. Speaker, to do so. And let me tell you, there are some societies where you are required to do so. Not just for sporting purposes, for healthy lifestyle purposes. And in a sense, Mr. Speaker, and it always hurt me when I was Permanent Secretary for Youth and Sports, that we would have sporting school finals. And you look at who are the parents present supporting the children. Who's there for the football finals, the netball finals, the volleyball finals? And the Prime Minister used as his reference for success swimming. Probably the sport where the parental support is greatest for the athletes. We need to create a sports culture. And a sports culture, the starting point for a sports culture is participation in sports from very early ages. Now, if you take that to the next logical step, the school becomes the most important mechanism for in promoting participation in sports. The schools. Children must be involved in physical education from kindergarten. But to do so, you need to have facilities in all the schools. So if you're going to spend $40 million with a long-term objective of where you want to go in sports, a lot of that money have to be spent on the school sporting facilities. What sense are we really making to claim that we're going to build all those huge artificial turf facilities and whatever else, but then at the ground, at the grassroots level, there is no participation? Now, that is critical, Mr. Speaker. We need to invest in the school sporting facilities, first and foremost. And we have it the opposite way. We're spending on the national facilities, enhancing it, a la Don Lockerbie, and we're abandoning the schools. There are children in primary schools that every day are falling on asphalt surfaces, running about playing and scratching themselves and hurting themselves because they don't have proper sports facilities in the schools. We need to address that, Mr. Speaker. Then, Mr. Speaker, that brings into question why you need to have a policy to decide whether you're going to have school facilities, community facilities, zonal facilities, and national facilities. I guess maybe the presentation has that in it, but I have not seen it. So you'll know from year to year how much you invested in school facilities as against community, as against national. Because the issue of maintenance of those national facilities will become a big issue, you know. And the member from Grosley spoke about the water bill for Beau Séjour. Think about the maintenance of all those facilities that we are building. We cannot even pay management. You're obviously not involved in sports, honorable member. If you're going to keep it to an international level, you have to spend the money in maintenance. You have to spend the money in maintenance. You have to. And somebody has sold this idea that we can bring in the private sector in St. Lucia and there's going to be huge investment in sports. Have you ever organized a sporting tournament in St. Lucia? Have you ever organized a sporting tournament, a football competition, a football league? To see what you get when you send sponsorship letters out to the private sector? In Barbados, I mean, I see the amount of money that's invested in cricket tournament, in football, in track and field, in Antigua, in Jamaica. Not in St. Lucia. We don't have that kind of private sector involvement. We must start, but we don't have it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but we need to talk about the programs too, Mr. Speaker. We need to talk about the PE programs at the school level. We need to talk about the community programs, Mr. Speaker. We need to talk about the elite athlete development program, Mr. Speaker. But all of that has to be rooted in a sports policy as to where we go in, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I know you're going to tell me my hour is up despite all the interruptions they've had. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go into too much detail. I'm just flagging issues. There's another one that is very dear to me, sports economy. The need for us to build and create a sports economy in St. Lucia. If you're going to build all those facilities, Mr. Speaker, if you're going to invest in programs, you have to culminate it in the creation of a sports economy. Today is probably not the day for us to go into that discussion as to what constitutes a sports economy and how one can be built. But the point, Mr. Speaker, remains we have been asked to approve monies for a strategy and a plan of $42 million, Mr. Speaker. And I'm not even sure that this is guided by any overarching policy, any overarching stated objectives, Mr. Speaker, that is guiding that investment. And Mr. Speaker, I've raised the issue about how that money is being spent. Because from what I have seen, the facilities that are, I think it's called shovel-ready, I'm wondering whether that amount of money can actually deliver those facilities. By the time the project management fees are taken out, which nobody's telling us how much, although I'm comforted by what the member from Rosalie said, but it is still an issue of how much money is actually going to go into construction, whether those facilities can be built. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll be one of the loudest supporters for sports in this country. I believe sports can transform lives. Because, and coming back to the sports policy, Mr. Speaker, I've said to individuals, I don't know if the member from Rosalie or Denry South will agree with me, they only have about 3 sports that we play in St. Lucia. And listen to me carefully, where our performance is what you probably call world class. Let me explain. Kimani Melius, at 17 years old, went to the ICC Under-19 World Cup. He is world class at his age in cricket. Akim Ogis, at his age, he's world class. If you take the top 20 under 18 batsmen in the world, Kimani will probably be in it. You follow me? So in cricket, our talent level is world class. In track and field, Julian Alfred can win Junior Olympics or Youth Olympics. She's world class. We have enough track and field athletes at that age that can one see as potential world class. To some extent football, but less so. But look at the other sports. Whether our talent pool and our talent we have are at the level where it can be world class. My 2 daughters swim for St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And I keep telling them, you know, about world-class performance, and if at your age you're not reaching certain times, you're not likely to become a gold medal Olympian. And we have to be frank about that. We have to be frank about it. We cannot win a gold medal at Carifta swimming, at least. But we know Kimani Melius is one of the best under-18 cricketers in the world. So it tells you if you have meager resources, you have to decide according to your policy in the next 5 to 10 years where you're going to spend your money on to produce more world-class athletes. And it's more likely we'll produce world-class athletes in cricket, in track and field, and maybe we can get a few footballers to become professional footballers. I don't know that we will be world-class in some of the other sports. And then you have to decide how you spend the money to get maximum output. All of that discussion has to take place before you spend $42 million on facilities. And let me also say quickly, Mr. Speaker, I think the member from Miku North said it, And I remember once trying to explain to her parents, her child was a very good academic student, but he was also a very good sportsman. And she wanted him to pull out of sports. Her dream for a child is to go to university to get a degree. And I had to say to her, Madam, the easiest way for your child to get a university degree is through sports, not academics. Because there are more sporting scholarships available than academic scholarships. More. I remember one time, Mr. Speaker, the entire St. Lucia female football team got scholarships to go and study in California at university. The entire team decimated the national team. Because sports creates that avenue, Mr. Speaker. Sports. And we must not allow people to believe that you cannot proceed, advance in life, and your professional development and personal development cannot take place if you're involved in sports. It's academics you must focus on. We must, all of that is part of the sports culture we need to create. And also earning a living. There are cricketers that are millionaires now from playing cricket. That didn't used to happen a few years ago. There's IPL now. You can earn up to 700,000 US for 6 weeks playing in the IPL. So, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of issues that need to be discussed and debated. And I know in the government, and I put aside all politics, there are individuals in the government. I know they know sports because I've worked with them. I know they understand sports. We might disagree here and there on minor things. And when I hear some of those stories, I wonder, how do they allow those things to pass by them? Mr. Speaker, on that note, I thank you very much.
Member for Ancillary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wouldn't be as long as the speaker that went before me. I noticed the leader of the opposition was falling asleep during his presentation. That, Mr. Speaker, is quite instructive of how entertaining it was. But, Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my, my unwavering support to this rather comprehensive and holistic approach to the development of sports that is being articulated in our attempt to borrow monies for the improvement in our sporting facilities island-wide. Mr. Speaker, this really is in keeping with my own passion as a parliamentary rep for my constituency. And whilst we have not been included in this program in the first phase, like the MP for Grosley, I'm looking forward to being in the second phase. But I am very grateful, and I make no apologies for saying that I commend my government for including my constituency in the Constituency Development Program, where adequate attention is being given to an important playing field, Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, and I make reference of the Jackmel playing field, which has been left neglected for varying reasons, Mr. Speaker. But Jackmel is so important, Mr. Speaker, in that it represents the old-time mecca for sports in the Roseau Valley. And, Mr. Speaker, it now gives us the opportunity to revive and to revitalize a very important sporting facility within the Roseau Valley area. So, Mr. Speaker, that is under construction now, and some $500,000 is being spent through the Constituency Development Program. Mr. Speaker, as we look to improve the Jackmel facility, I look forward to receiving allocations, Mr. Speaker, from this program to upgrade it even further, Mr. Speaker, as we contemplate lights and as we contemplate seating opportunities for the young people of the Roseau Valley area. Mr. Speaker, a lot was spoken about in terms of facilities and in terms of synthetic track and whether it's allowed or disallowed. But, Mr. Speaker, very little was spoken on development. Development of sporting athletes. And, you know, Mr. Speaker, this area is dear to my heart because the member for Castries South, when he was the CEO of West Indies Cricket, I had him to follow me in a program to develop young under-15 boys. Because, Mr. Speaker, what wasn't clear to a lot of people and a lot of the people administering cricket at the time was the fact that the West Indies had enjoyed a long history of dominance in world cricket. Mr. Speaker, there's no other sporting team that would have said that they are world champions for 20 years in succession. And that leads from 1975 to 1995. The West Indies team dominated every single team. And Mr. Speaker, I'm raising this point because of our neglect of being very deliberate in terms of how we produce cricketers to replace the great cricketers of old. We saw very starkly a slide in the standard of cricket. And as the rest of the world, Mr. Speaker, went on to innovate and to initiate scientific and clinical programs towards the development of their program. I give you an example, Mr. Speaker. So the average Indian player, for example, in the 1970s would have only had the opportunity to face fast bowling when they would have come up against the West Indies team. But Mr. Speaker, with the innovation of the bowling machine technology, they can practice in the nets bowling that is up to 120 miles an hour if they wish, Mr. Speaker, thus preparing them, Mr. Speaker, to come up against bowling on the world stage for about 90 miles an hour. So there was an application of science and the very latest technologies that were being implemented, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our that cricketers who were competing against the West Indies cricketers were actually well prepared to come up against fast bowling, for example. Now, Mr. Speaker, the point must be made today that facilities alone don't make champions. And so if you want to brag and you want to be the minister of playing fields, then go right ahead. But I'm aware, Mr. Speaker, that this plan is more comprehensive than playing fields. It's more comprehensive than astro versus natural turf. And it's more comprehensive as to whether we should have specialized grounds or not. But, Mr. Speaker, it also includes the conceptualization and the institution of a national sports academy, which have been outlined by the member for Grosley. And, Mr. Speaker, this is where the real difference will be made, is in those development programs where in them you can spend the money and the time to institute the very latest technologies in the development of a lot of your sporting talent across the spectrum, Mr. Speaker, in the areas of focus. And so, Mr. Speaker, one of the sad things about our country, and we mentioned world champions, you know, when I think back of sports and I look at the outcomes that we've had so far, I see that in St. Lucia, I would say only 3 of our athletes have been world champions and have attained world championship status. And, Mr. Speaker, we tend to forget Mr. Rick Wayne, who was a global and a bodybuilder of international repute. And then I would say Darren Sammy and Laverne Spencer. But, Mr. Speaker, outside of that, we've had a lot of talented players. And Kimani Melius was mentioned, that at present, he is one of the most talented at the youth level. But, Mr. Speaker, when you get to the other levels in sport, talent alone cannot take you there. There must be a very deliberate strategy for development. And so one of my major disappointments with the last 5 years to have preceded us in the government is that there wasn't a single national development academy. Mr. Speaker, how can a country that is serious about sport not institute a national academy? Not in any of the sporting disciplines. And the former Minister of Sport is there. He can tell me if I am wrong, and I am willing to withdraw the statement. But I cannot remember, Mr. Speaker, any national development academy that took a strategic and a very deliberate approach to develop the talent of our sportsmen and women, to harness that talent, Mr. Speaker, to take it to the next level. What I remember is that there was a lot of focus on playing fields. And Mr. Speaker, this is a mistake that we hope not to repeat. This is a mistake, Mr. Speaker, that cannot be allowed. We have to be deliberate about getting international athletes and providing athletes with that avenue by which that they can develop. It's not about sending one athlete away on a scholarship, or neither is it about sending someone on a job. But it really has to be, the fundamental difference here is that this project entails a strategic approach to make sure that the talent of our athletes are being harnessed, so that you wouldn't have a Rick Wayne or a Laverne Spencer or Darren Sammy happening by chance. Can't be by chance. It has to be a very deliberate strategy. And so, Mr. Speaker, I welcome the news and I welcome the move by this government that is part of this project, that it will institute the National Sports Academy. Mr. Speaker, very quickly, I want to take a moment to debunk some of the issues raised by the uninformed member for Castries South, who spoke a lot today, but really had a difficulty in aligning a lot of what he said to truth. Mr. Speaker, he has been the director of sport in the St. Lucia administration. He has been permanent secretary in that Ministry of Sport as well. But it is quite convenient today, now that he's an opposition politician, that having had the opportunity to institute a national sports policy, both as director of sport and also as permanent secretary, that today he's in opposition, that it is somehow the right time for there to be the development of such a strategy. And I wondered, Mr. Speaker, whether while he was serving in those capacities, whether the opportunity did not present itself for him to do so. Mr. Speaker, he also attacked the Parker Company, said he went on their website and indicated, Mr. Speaker, that the company, he didn't see any development, any track record of the development of sports and so on. Mr. Speaker, it's not, the whole Caribbean knows about Don Lockerbie. Mr. Speaker, when the ICC was looking to assess the readiness of the Caribbean as to whether we could have hosted the 2007 World Cup, who did they call? They called Mr. Don Lockerbie to do it. And so, Mr. Speaker, this gives me very much the comfort that we're choosing a company headed by an individual with the right level of expertise, with the right track record. He's been an Olympian for his country, represented the United States, Mr. Speaker, and someone who knows about sports development in St. Lucia. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that really I do believe that we have chosen the right man for the job. Mr. Speaker, a lot was also said about the synthetic track. But, Mr. Speaker, I have in my hand a media release from FIFA, and the headline says, "Artificial turf now covered in the laws of the game of football." Mr. Speaker, it was dated February 2004, and it reads, Mr. Speaker, that at its last meeting on the 20th of February 2004, the International Football Association Board, the custodian of the laws of the game in football, decided that a reference to field surface, including artificial turf, would be added to the laws of the game. Mr. Speaker, you can determine from that the International Football Federation's acceptance or receptiveness to playing fields. Mr. Speaker, the press release ends by saying over 75 FIFA recommended surfaces have been installed worldwide. And tons of major events have been played on artificial turf. There's no need to debate that. That is a well-known fact. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to end on this note. And that is what we see here today, and we continue to see in all of our debates, is the politics taking supremacy over the development of the country. Whether we are here to talk about sports, whether we are here to talk about our finances, and we're seeing on the side of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, that politics is given that primacy. Politics is given, Mr. Speaker, priority over our development goals. And Mr. Speaker, this is the most dangerous thing that I believe that is taking place in these debates, and certainly the mood and the spirit with which the opposition has approached them is very, very disappointing. And so, Mr. Speaker, having said this, I want to thank you, and I want to, at the same time, give my unwavering support to this motion brought by the Minister of Finance. Thank you.
So you don't want me to go before?
Just 2 minutes.
Leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'll not be long. I just want to make one observation. One observation. We are borrowing $32 million. The government has brought a projector and a projector operator to show how we are going to spend this $32 million. This money doesn't belong to any of us inside of here. This money is going to be repaid by our children or by the taxpayers of Taiwan.
Mr. Speaker, this money is on a point of order.
Yeah, go ahead.
I said by the taxpayers of Taiwan. Don't you think in the spirit of maturity and the spirit of doing things for the national good, the minister should have showed what the $32 million was going to do, and we would discuss it. But no, he wants to go last so he can have the final say. The opposition will not be staying to look at it. Because we must stop this pettiness. We must stop this pettiness in the parliament. We must stop this one-manship. We must stop this I control. You speaking about sports, everybody on this side has supported the idea that we need better sports facilities. When we were in government, we built 2 stadiums. We built a court in Force Jacques. We built the Soufre mini stadium. We put lights in the Marshall Field. It's not something new we did inside there. But no, we want to demonstrate we're in control. So we're going to allow everybody else to speak. You're going to attack them. And when you're going to attack them, you're going to show your thing so you can end up with the prize. Mr. Speaker, we are not going to be staying to look at the presentation from the Minister of Sports. I thank you.
Member for Castro Southeast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's been another long day once again. But that is what happens in these type of debates. But Mr. Speaker, in light of the discussion here, I stand to lend my support to the borrowing of these funds as indicated for budgetary support and also for the development of the playing facilities. You see, Mr. Speaker, as I listen to the debate on the other side, they seem to be speaking on both sides. Yes, we support sporting facilities. No, we don't support the government going about it this way. Now, Mr. Speaker, a government was elected, and the government was elected on the mandate by the people of St. Lucia to carry out the functions. And members are free to ask every question they want to ask. I have no problems with that. But when this Honorable House, Mr. Speaker, there will be an attempt to convey wrong information to the Honorable House. And Mr. Speaker, I'm hoping that at some future time, we can get to understand that document that the House was suspended for more than half an hour, where that document came from, because there are so many leaks. And it appears to me from what I see that it's a doctored document that an honorable member of the House is trying to use to convey the wrong information. Mr. Speaker, that is a serious cause for concern. Because all of us want to score political points on the government side, on the opposition side. But when members will go to that extent, Mr. Speaker, to use information they know that is not authentic to try and make a point, it calls into question the level of the debate and what is going on. But Mr. Speaker, I move on because it is important that I made this point so that persons understand not everything that comes here is as reliable as it appears to be. The member for Dennery North highlighted the issues pertaining to playing fields in my area, Bexon, Bele. And that is true. There are issues with these playing facilities. But there were plans, Mr. Speaker, for the Bexon playing field. The billboard and everything was up. When the work was done on the Bexon playing field, I heard about it in the Honorable House that work would be done. I saw the work being done. But what happened, Mr. Speaker? The field was resurfaced at the lowest level in the Bexon Basin. So the road is higher, the berm for the river is higher, the school is higher, and everything around the field is higher. So it becomes the ponding area for all the water. The experts who are used, I would assume that the money that was spent was not just spent carelessly and recklessly. And we welcome that the field was done. But it was done to a stand where all you needed to do was take the gravel from the river, raise the playing field 3 or 4 feet higher, and put it at a level where the water could drain back into the river rather than pond on the playing field. So even cutting the grass on these playing fields, Mr. Speaker, becomes an issue because of the consistent rain we've had. You cannot put any heavy mower and you cannot cut these fields anymore with these little lawn mowers that you push around the place by hand. So we have a problem. We have a problem even with the maintenance of the facilities. Now, we talk about the Prime Minister making a statement about the number of facilities. How many people we have in St. Lucia who are actively engaged in sports? So if we just use a rough estimate, and we say that 50,000 people in St. Lucia may be actively engaged in sports, and you divide that by the 150 playing facilities, because we all face that as parliamentarians. So every community, you build a multipurpose court there, and another community tell you, well, you build a multipurpose court in Sarot, where is Bexon's own? Or where is Bele's own? And that is Because, and I asked them, and the people in my constituency can tell you, I asked them, so if I build something for everybody in their community, who are you playing against? Who are you playing with? So the government is taking a holistic approach, and we are not saying that this is the only solution, but it is evident, Mr. Speaker, that we are focused on quantity. We have been focused on quantity in this country and not quality. And what we are saying now as a government is that we need to bring some facilities up to a quality standard. And I compliment the member for Denry enough. The project that should have happened in Bexon didn't happen because after Hurricane Thomas, they felt that the place was too prone to flooding. The government changed, the project changed. First of all, let me say, location change. First of all, the project started at Union. We said Union had a high water table, and it was one of the best agricultural pieces of land because of the collection of everything that washes down from the hill. No. If you go to Montsejour now, by the time you put an excavator in the ground and you dig less than 2 feet, there's no more topsoil. So Mr. Speaker, when members come to this honorable house and debate these issues, the facts speak for itself, Mr. Speaker. And so, I didn't come and make noise in the house when I didn't feel that the project should have been moved from Bexon.
Honorable
Member but Mr. Speaker, the reality is the government changed, and the government of the day had a different mandate. I accepted that. Nobody ever heard me complain how the project that should have been in Bexon ended up in Larry Shoes.
The youth officer said he wants it there.
Grand Riviere, I didn't make noise about that.
No.
A world-class facility is built in the area, and it is welcome. It is something where people from all around can go and utilize. Mr. Speaker, everybody chooses to use the resources when they are elected in the way that they see that is best suited for the country. The problem I am having here today, Mr. Speaker, is the opposition had 5 years in government to implement their programs, to do what they were elected to do for the people, refused to do it, and today want to dictate to the government what we should do and how we should do it. So here is a group of persons, Mr. Speaker, who say we are interested in sports and we are concerned about expenditure. We are concerned about the quality of the output that we are going to get. Well, Mr. Speaker, I have news for them. And I'm going to get straight to it. Because sometimes we forget what we do in office, and when other people get into office, we tend to behave in a different manner. Mr. Speaker, now this field was done in Grand Ravine. And this has been made a document of the House in the past. Projects being undertaken through the National Lotteries Authority. 2015, 2016. And during a previous discussion here, Mr. Speaker, it was said that, oh, money was not spent during elections. But, Mr. Speaker, I will just give you, I will not call the names of the contractors. Huh? I will not mention the names of the contractors, but I will tell you contracts that were issued. And I will, Larry Shoes playing field, $159,761.17. Larry Shoes playing field. The second one, The first one was reinforced steel. The second one is reinforced steel variation. So a contract of $159,761 was issued. There was a variation or an addition, if you want to call it, or was it cost overrun? But I am going what is there. Variation. $67,570. Larry Shoes playing field, $78,147. Larry Shoes playing field again, $28,185. Larry Shoes playing field, excavation and earthworks, $372,199. Larry Shoes playing field, excavation and earthworks variation, $99,525.01. Now that's just one playing facility we're talking about there. It doesn't, I did not total, but that's a substantial amount. That's a substantial amount, maybe close to $1 million or over $1 million. The point I am making, Mr. Speaker, is that the members opposite, they are questioning what this government is attempting to do without having accounted for what they did when they were in government. They've not answered these questions. So, Marigo playing field. Marigo playing field. $420,980. Resurfacing of the Mon playing field. $385,815. You see, Mr. Speaker, I have a point to make about this so you would understand. When we talk about projects and we talk about the value of projects, so here they are questioning the government engaging a consultant to assist in the development of these sporting facilities. But let me give you an example of something I saw there. Carpentry and joinery, floor wall and ceiling fans, Larry Shoes playing field. Another $236,530. Now, what is the distance between Larry Shoes playing field and the Grand Ravine playing field? Grand Riviere. Look at the level of expenditure in that area, while so many other constituencies was waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened. Now what is interesting, here is, Mr. Speaker, construction of changing rooms on Marigo playing field and rehabilitation of Denry, Lafag, Montfortune playing field. And I will mention this name, Ada Ing. $155,000. And I can mention that name because he's a member, the owner of that company, as far as I know, was the candidate who ran against me in the last elections. Okay? So at the end of the day, I didn't know a witness is an owner. But you want to go down that road, we can. We can. Because there's more. There's much more where this came from, Mr. Speaker. Marigo playing field. Marigo playing field changing room. $462,477. So on one line item, you spend $155,000 on the Marigo changing room. On the second item, there is $462,000 And outside of that, Mr. Speaker, there's still a variation of $15,000 added to all of this. These are the people, Mr. Speaker. These are the people who handled the resources of the country, could not account for what they did. Yes, from the minister's account, we know about that. We know about the minister's account. So, yes, you can say that for now. You can say that for now. Twapito and Badney Plainfield access, $163,660. And Mr. Speaker, I can take this parliament to these two playing fields that cost $163,000, and it is not the size of this chamber. And the work that was done in these two areas, it's not the size of this chamber. You want to challenge me on that, honorable member? Let's go to Twapiton. Let's go to Twapiton. But $163,000. But the leader of the opposition will stand up and talk about taxpayers' money of this country and taxpayers' money of Taiwan. The money that was used, where did it come from? Couldn't it have been used in better ways? But you know what that was, Mr. Speaker? That was a channel to get money for the elections. Because if you go and value, I challenge you to take any quantity surveyor. Go to Marigot today. Look at the little box that was built there for $600,000.
Mr. Speaker, I want to invoke 35.5. The member is imputing improper motives to suggest that works done during the administration of the Central Labour Party and using the National Lotteries Authority, that was a channel for monies to be used for elections. And I want that to be withdrawn.
Honourable Member, I must so rule that it is improper to associate the two things. So I'm going to ask you to so withdraw.
Can you repeat your ruling, Mr. Speaker?
To suggest that the money spent on the sporting facilities was a funnel through which monies were so diverted is wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I withdraw. Mr. Speaker, but I will clarify a few things. When a certain candidate was chosen to run against me, and he landed some of the top jobs on this list, I am questioning, Mr. Speaker, whether we got value for money from what was used. And Mr. Speaker, I know in due course some of these matters will be dealt with. But I want to let members opposite know today that the people of St. Lucia have not forgotten what transpired. It's just 2.5 years, Mr. Speaker, and all of a sudden, the members opposite know how money ought to be spent. They know how to account for it. Mr. Speaker, I was amazed listening to the member from Dennery North talking this morning about an artificial turf and how bad that is. I heard another member talk about the impact on the water and the environment. And then the very first one laid in this country, in his constituency, presided over by him. I mean, Mr. Speaker, what kind of reasoning, what kind of rationale is this? So am I to take any value? Am I to take any value from what is being said there? But if something is not good for the country, Mr. Speaker, I don't care who's coming and build it. When we came into government and we found them putting together a project with the IFC for the airport, we reviewed it and we said, look here, we can do better than that. So if you know all of that about artificial surfaces, if you know all of that about it, you allowed it to be built right in the middle of your constituency, and then you come to this honorable house to tell them all the dangers that are associated with an artificial turf. So, maybe you didn't speak loud enough. You see, Mr. Speaker, that is the problem in this honorable house, that members forget what they did. And I will remind a member of something. It's in Hansard. When I lost the elections in 2011, when my party, not myself, when the party lost the election, I won my seat. I was seated somewhere in the region where the honorable member is there. Member for Dennery North. And he said something. He said, the high and mighty, the man who made all the noise, it's in Hansard. Today, he's asking for the playing field in Bexon to be done. Of course, that's what a parliamentary rep does. That's what a parliamentary rep does. But he said today he's here begging for a field for his people because the field was on the program to be done. He waited 2 years, almost 3 years, before something was done, but it was done. It wasn't done up to the standard. Mr. Speaker, the reality of where we are today is that a group of failed politicians, a group of men who had the opportunity to lead a country and to do something for sports, did not. And all of a sudden, they're saying, yes, what you're doing is good. We support sporting activities. We support sports. We support this. But you know, the way you're going about it is not good. As if their way was good. Now, if you are in my place, Mr. Speaker, you take advice from them. I mean, the money that is spent by the National Lotteries Authority, and they said why we couldn't do this when we just came into government. You know why we could not do this, Mr. Speaker? Because they did not just spend the money they found there. They spent the money that would have been collected in the next year. They did it for CDP and they did it for National Lotteries Authority. And today they want to advise us on what to do. So, if you cannot run your own business, you think it's my business you'll be able to advise me? Yes. Did this come to Parliament to debate what was happening? But Mr. Speaker, here's what we did as a government. The Taiwanese, yes, they want to know every contractor that is engaged. They want to know the terms and conditions. I can tell them the contractors that was engaged. I can tell them, you see, Mr. Speaker, they'll challenge me, but the headquarters for the Labour Party in my constituency, the persons who lived at the headquarters for them, where the nerve center for the campaign against me, their names appear there on so many contracts, you'd be surprised. We're talking about millions of dollars worth of projects. But they say, I cannot say what it was used, and I agree. I don't know what it was used for. I can only assume for myself what it was used for. So, Mr. Speaker, we came in as a government. We said we need to fix sports. And these criticize us about not looking after the youth. They criticize Ojo Labs. That is creating employment for young people in this country. Mr. Speaker, they had the same young people working in private establishments for an extended period of time. And the intention of the NICE program, Mr. Speaker, and I'm making a point about this. The intention of the program was that these should be short-term employment, that after a while, and I have the evidence there that we did not fire them, that the contract you signed ended. The contract ended, and the leader, the former leader of the opposition, the former Prime Minister, indicated that in this Honorable House. And I have the document here in my file. If you break, Mr. Speaker, I can get the document and show them. But I know we won't do that. But I can show you. Mr. Speaker, here's the difference between the two administrations. That is what separates us from the politicians on the other side. So they send these people and work for everybody of their choice. I can tell you, I choose not to mention the names, but I can tell you some of the lawyers' offices they were working. I can tell you some of the hardware establishments they were working. I knew the places they were working in the north and in the south. They were being paid by the government to work for these people. As soon as the program ended, they did not keep any of these employees. They sent all of them home. When the intention was to give the company a little boost so that they could keep the workers. Here's the difference between what we are doing. Under this administration, we pay the fees for a little while, but these people remain on permanent employment with the establishment of Ojo Labs. And they're developing a skill set that they can use anywhere they go in the world. That is the opportunity we are giving to the young people. So I don't have a sporting facility in this round of projects, but I fully support the project. Because you know why? Soufrière is in a location where you need a facility of that nature that can be accessed by Soufrière and its environs. You have the area, the Elwin Maslin ground in Vieux-Fort. It was under the UWP administration that we enclosed this facility, and it can now be used as a revenue-generating facility for major activities in the South. So, Mr. Speaker, when we talk about what we are attempting to do with this sporting program, converting or turning the Grosile Secondary School into a sports academy. I mean, they're saying that there's no plan. The member for Castries South is saying, what is the plan? Because they don't have a plan. Our plan is well laid out, Mr. Speaker. It's in the manifesto. The leader of the opposition has a copy. He should share it with his members. Because we are clear as to where we are going. And so, we are not just talking the talk, Mr. Speaker. We are making a serious investment in the young people of this country. The sporting facilities is not for people like me. Even though they say the member couldn't figure out what sports I played. But I played cricket. I represented Mount Technical College in playing cricket. At that time, it wasn't SAFA. And when I used to play my softball cricket, we used to go down to the ramp at Ragery before the hotel was there. So I played my cricket. I've done my fair share of sports. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? This year is 23 years I have been the sponsor of cricket tournaments in my constituency. So we don't just talk the talk. We walk the walk. And I started that way before I dreamt of being in politics in 1995. So, Mr. Speaker, the point I am making about where we are going as a government, and I want the young people of St. Lucia to understand what we are saying and what the overall plan is. We are attending to the social needs. So you heard the member for Grozile. I mean, we could have closed the debate after the member for Grozile spoke. Because he made the point that, look here, we are not just talking, we are working. And so we are building a holistic plan to address the future generations. So, and let me just take you back briefly, Mr. Speaker. In the previous sitting of the House, we approved 2 sets of monies at the regional level to help young people in businesses. Then we promised 10 million in the development bank. We put in 20 million to assist especially these more vulnerable, those who do not have an asset base as such. We have put in money to support the program, supporting the 150 young people being trained by Monroe College in Viewfort today. And the other 600 that's going to be trained in the coming year. Isn't that investment in the young people? And today, we are not just talking sports. We are not building a facility that the young people will not have access to. Bosseju has its challenges. Because it is our national facility, you cannot go and host every game there. So how do we cater for the other communities in St. Lucia? That is the intention of this program. To strategically place sporting facilities in locations around the island. East, west, north, and south. So that everybody will be in proximity to a sporting facility. And that's not new to UWP. I remember in the days of Sir John, when he started building health centers all around the island, the then health policy was that within a 1-mile radius, there should be a health facility within a health center within a 1-mile radius of everybody who resides in a particular area. So, Mr. Speaker, in closing, Mr. Speaker, I want members to understand, and I want the young people of St. Lucia especially to pay attention. We are going to invest in these facilities. This is not talk anymore. This is work beginning to take place. This is work that is going to enhance our sporting facilities and bring it up to a standard that is second to none. So that at the end of the day, yes, we will continue to have the little playing fields in different areas. We would have the basketball courts and these different things. But in reality, Mr. Speaker, when you want to bring your athletes to the international standard that we are looking for, there will be a facility in close proximity to where they are that they can get easier access to and they can get the training that is required. That is the plan. And it is clear. And I can understand, Mr. Speaker, why the members are afraid. They have to be scared that it was a United Workers' Party government that came up with such a comprehensive plan to be able to deal with the facilities of making sports a #1 item on the agenda of the United Workers' Party. And I compliment the Minister of Sports, the Minister for Equity, who has to deal with all of the social programs, and the Prime Minister for making these funds available. And I must close by saying, the Taiwanese, we are truly grateful. I would say these 2 sessions of Parliament can be dedicated to our friendship and the generosity of the Taiwanese people and government. Because, Mr. Speaker, this loan is not a big burden on the people of St. Lucia. Because $3 million of each year of the allocation, 3 million US, is what is going back to pay this loan. So we have not put any burdens on any taxpayer in this country to say that we are increasing the debt and putting a burden on them. And that is what happens when you have good leadership, when you have forward-thinking people, when you have transformational leaders and not conformers. Ask them how they use the 12 million. They got the 12 million. In instances, they got more than the 12 million every year from the Taiwanese. Ask them how they spent it. By the time this program is over, they will see how well a united Workers' Party can spend resources to bring benefits to the people of St. Lucia. I thank you.
Member for Castries now.
Mr. Speaker, I note that you smiled when I switched on my mic, but let me assure you that I won't be too long because I've got a function for 6:30 that I need to attend. But I felt it was necessary in supporting this, motion to at least make a contribution, even though Castries North will never benefit under such a program. And the reason I say this is because Castries North certainly doesn't have the space for the kind of facilities that we're talking about. In 1987, when I was elected as parliamentary representative for Castries North, there was only one playing field, not even at international standard, and that is the Leclerc playing field, minimum standard. Since then, I've had to fight to move mountains to build facilities, whether it is the Chase Garden, Multipurpose Court, and HRDC, the Boapatat, what I call playing field, which is, as George Odlum said, is the size of a handkerchief, and now the AGAD playing field, all of which was done through initiatives of private sector participation and myself. But for me, my greatest interest, in addition to what is being done nationally to provide adequate sporting facilities and to introduce new concepts and new technology in the quality of playing areas that are being provided, is to assist, and I know that we're looking at this, is to ensure that for those of us who have limited space, by the fact that when you look at a constituency like Castries North, it's all hills. The only flat area is Leclerc. The only place you'll find some flat land is Leclerc. In Boapatat, where the playing field or the little court was built, we had to actually acquire people's private property and cut down the hill to put a multipurpose court and a small grassed area. In AGAD, the same thing we had to do, purchase land, cut, and backfill. Beg your pardon? I didn't get you. Yes, Boapatat, where we call Concrete Hill, all the way to the top, upper Boapatat, you're lower. So, so in every instance, in Carolee, where we built a court, we had to do all of these sort of things. But my greatest concern at this time, as we allocate resources for sporting facilities, is how do we keep those facilities open, particularly for those individuals who want to play at nights. I've got about the Boapatat multipurpose court. They have turned off the lights because we can't afford to pay the electricity. The Chase Gardens multipurpose court, the lights have been cut off because we are unable to meet the cost. And in AGAD, where I was able to get some street lights on, and recently I was able, through the private sector, to acquire some flood lamps to put there in the meantime while I await better lighting. That which has been installed today, it has come to a halt in terms of switching on, unless I can give a guarantee as to who will take care of the electricity. This is a major concern because unless we can keep, particularly in some of our constituencies in the Castries Basin, whether it's Castries Central, Castries North, or even Castries East, that which are challenged by the what I call the urban social problems, etc. We will find ourselves in situations where we do not have the expanse of land, the quality of facilities to provide and to keep our young people occupied after 6 in the evening. That is one concern. The other concern I would like to encourage is that of having effective sports development programs and activities for young people, organized, so that the club structure at the community level can be developed effectively. And I think one minister, one parliamentarian mentioned the institutionalization of sports at the schools in a very dynamic way, and the support of the family in sports. All of those, I believe, are some areas where we need to pay attention to, and to ensure that in those areas where we are challenged by those social problems, that our young people are given the necessary guidance, the necessary coaching, and counseling to be very involved. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I am very expectant of the outcome of this initiative. I believe that it will further enhance the quality of the infrastructure in sports throughout the country. But my emphasis here is to ensure that in the new architecture of providing academies and new facilities, etc., that the soft programs and the financing is provided to guarantee the quality of programming that I believe is absolutely necessary in the provision of sporting infrastructure in St. Lucia. I thank you.
Member for Denrisa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Oh, what a long day. This day started yesterday. And I'm very thankful that we have arrived at this juncture. First of all, Mr. Speaker, let me do the first order of business. Let me commend my colleagues, and I want to thank them. I want to thank my colleagues, and I do this on behalf of the young people of St. Lucia. Colleagues, thank you. Now, I do that because this is unprecedented. What is happening in this house today is unprecedented. And the significance of that, Mr. Speaker, and I want you to just imagine for a little while that each constituency representative on the government side, each parliamentarian, okay, especially those who won the seats. Taiwan made a promise a long time ago. And as government changed, it continued that $1 million would be provided for each of the constituencies to develop the infrastructure, to do little things in those communities. And this has gone a long way. Okay? I remember, and I'm diverging a little bit, I remember when we just started with this, they called us ministers of Ticanal. And this money has transformed every single community in St. Lucia. So let me take this opportunity also to thank the Taiwanese for that contribution. And let me continue thanking my colleagues because, and I keep saying that it is unprecedented, that colleagues who give up some of their allocations, okay? Colleagues, and this needs repeating, colleagues would give up some of their allocations to see to it that sports is developed holistically in St. Lucia. You should give yourself a pat on the back. You know, in so many instances, the allocations to constituencies were reduced when it comes to what we name the CDP. Okay? So, Mikud North, Mikud South, Denry, South, Soufre, and some other constituencies. The allocations were reduced. I would have loved that it would have happened on every constituency basis, but we will work on that. But you have come a long way. I should continue. And you are making facilities available to the entire country so that sports can be developed in a holistic fashion. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to support the Prime Minister as he presented the resolution for our Sports Infrastructure Program Development Initiative. And it must be automatic, Mr. Speaker, that we provide and support the youth of this nation without hesitation. And my colleagues didn't hesitate. The Prime Minister didn't hesitate. The Prime Minister said, this is what we are going to do. Okay? This is what we are going to follow. And we are getting it done today. So this is why I'm happy, Mr. Speaker. So, the genesis. How did all of this happen? And at times, I remember when the Prime Minister would call him and tell me, Estee, what's happening? Like, patience, Mr. Prime Minister. Patience. Because I knew for one, that would have been a very, very, very difficult thing to sell. So as I went, or as I brought in every single association, and we were planning, you know, developing a strategy for the implementation of sports. As I met association by association, day by day I was thinking, boy, where are we going to get a consultant to sell this to the rest of the country? How would I sell this to my cabinet? How would I sell it? Little did I know that the Prime Minister was thinking on the very same line that I was thinking. And one day, all my troubles and worries were put to rest. When the Prime Minister said, I found the individual, Mr. Don Lockaby. And that is how we're finding ourselves here. So I met all the associations, every single association, to tell them, put the best plan forward. Tell the ministry exactly what you need, what the plan is for you to develop sports on island. And at the end, we can take collectively every single plan that the associations have, and then we can make that master plan. Okay? We can make that master plan. And this is where we are at right now. This is where we are at. So Mr. Speaker, This is where we are. And in our commitment as a government and as a party, and we made the promise in our manifesto to the people of St. Lucia in 2016, and we declared, 1, providing and improving facilities in communities to mobilize them, to mobilize our young people through sports and other activities that will empower them. One of our goals. 2, use sports as a vehicle for encouraging a culture of teamwork, cooperation, and discouraging antisocial behavior. From our manifesto again. A third one, promote sports as a vehicle for employment creation, not only for sportsmen and women, but also for support services such as managers, trainers, doctors, sports media workers, among others. And then, last but not least, to upgrade existing facilities and provide new amenities in a phased approach. And this is what this resolution is about, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this visionary phased approach to develop our sporting infrastructure for the next 5 to 7 years, and I have thought of this a lot. 5 to 7 years will take place in the first phase with the shovel-ready project, which we will go to in a little while. And then after that, we will look at the study-ready projects. So, Jesus constructed or created this world in 6 days, and on the 7th day, he rested. We will complete this in 6 years, and then on the 7th year, we will rest our case. So, my colleagues, we have 6 years. So it means that next general election, we shall return to this house to complete our task. Agree? So, Mr. Speaker, the Parker Company, as I just mentioned a while ago, we started deliberations with them in 2017. Okay? And sometime in May 2018, we were able to arrive at an agreement so that we can move forward and create the necessary facilities for our young people. And so, Mr. Speaker, in the first instance, as was mentioned by the Prime Minister, the Soufriere Mini Stadium will be constructed or upgraded, because there are some facilities there. There's a grandstand there that we're still going to make use of. The Dennery Sports Complex, the Mikud North Sports Complex, Mikud South Complex, and the Grozile School, which is the National Sports Academy. Mr. Speaker, the study-ready projects are those ready for immediate and further study for government in the near future. And then we will get to them in a little bit, and we will discuss them one by one. And we are talking about the George Odlum Stadium, the Dahe Mall, the Boshezu Sports Complex, the Mindo Philip Park Marshall Grounds Initiative, the VG Sports Complex, the National Sports Park at Cul-de-Sac. But I want to assure every St. Lucian that as we go along with our different projects, that those fields that we already have on island, those facilities that already exist on island, will be given some attention. Because as we discuss with the different associations, for example, for football, we said there will be zones on the island where we would have some major sporting facilities for football. And those facilities would be at a certain standard. Okay? These are the things that are discussed with the association. So Mr. Lockerbie and the Packer team have spoken to every single association. And if there's an association out there who has not met with Mr. Lockerbie, our apologies. Let's set up a meeting tomorrow, okay? So that we can meet with you and discuss the way forward in planning for your development and for the development of our young people. And so, Mr. Speaker, to take us to the level of world-class standards, the government of St. Lucia engaged the Packer Company, like I just said, in 2017. And so we arrived at an agreement in 2018. This company has tremendous expertise in developing sports facilities the world over and has been doing so for over 40 years. The Packer Company's fees, as it relates to that part of the resolution, is only 20% of the fees, of the amount stated. Mr. Speaker, we have an integrated approach through meaningful dialogue and consultation. Like I said, we've met with every single association. In this regard, we have had several meetings and discussions with the associations, and anytime, any questions arise, when the Packer Company is on island, we meet and we discuss the way forward. So, at this stage, Mr. Speaker, let us go to the PowerPoint and for us to see exactly what is going to take place in the different constituencies. And as we transition, let me also state that as a government, we have come a very long way when it comes to our politics and sports. I have been tempted on so many different occasions to tell my colleagues we cannot, if we want to develop sports on island and if we want it to be holistic, we have to forget about that politics. We have to forget about that constituency get this and constituency get that mentality, and my constituency and your constituency and this and that mentality. And I'm happy that my colleagues have understood, and we are looking at this island as one island. We are looking at every constituency. We are looking at the bigger picture, the overall picture, and we are developing sports in St. Lucia holistically. Now, let me also mention that we did engage the Packer Company, and we were looking at the very big picture to have a program to develop a strategy for sports in general. Okay? But as our engagement with Packer went through, we soon discovered that we would have the Packer Company develop sports infrastructure, okay? And then engage somebody else to do the other part of the strategy, which would be the policy side. And let me quickly report to this Honorable House and to every single St. Lucian listening or who's interested, that as we speak, we have a gentleman by the name of Andy Bell, okay, and who has given us an initial report on that other aspect of our strategy, which is the policy side of things. And very soon, I know that both Mr. Lockerbie, Mr. Bell, and so on, you know, there will be synergies, there will be integration, there will be discussions, okay, so that at the end, both the sports infrastructure strategy and the policy side of the strategy, we will put it together and have a one harmonious strategy for the development of sports in St. Lucia. So I'm holding in my hand, you know, an initial report by Andy Bell, and which we have no need to make a document of the House now. I promise every St. Lucian that consultations are taking place as we speak, and very soon this document would be made available to all and sundry. And it is called Proposed Ideas and Initiatives for a Coordinated Approach to National Sports Development in St. Lucia. Okay, this is being worked on as we speak. And I mean, I like what is in there. I've had initial discussions with the gentleman. We are also trying to bring in somebody on the local side, you know, with the individual, so that, you know, all is not lost. So that there's continuity if anything should happen. Okay, so we are working on that. So, shovel-ready projects. And, Mr. Speaker, the government of St. Lucia undertook an assessment of sports venues island-wide to determine the status and condition of sports facilities. And even before Mr. Lockerbie came through, I told you, well, I've told you before, not today, that when I became Minister of Sports, my first order of business was to carry out that inventory. I visited every sporting facility on island, and I got a sense for myself, with a team of individuals from the ministry, of the state of every facility on island. Okay? And I soon realized that when Mr. Lockerbie came on board, that the very same thing happened. This is what he did. He went and he took an inventory, visited every single sporting venue on island, again, to make an assessment of what is happening with those facilities. Following this, the Packer Company was retained in May 2018 by the government of St. Lucia to develop a solution-oriented master plan to upgrade the facilities to world-class venues. Now, we do recognize that, and it has been spoken in this chamber, that not every single facility on island can be made world-class standard. And like I said, we looked at specific zones on island, and we decided, for example, for track and field, that maybe we need 4 tracks on island. And we discussed this with the association. We say for football, what we probably need is 8 major football grounds on island, okay, that have good lighting, fenced properly, all right, have stands so that you can collect revenue. All right? Those talks are still ongoing. All right? But we are in the process of constructing a few shovel-ready projects. Now, the den refill, if I should digress a little bit, I don't want I come to the end of my presentation or my time run out and I don't deal with this. the Dennery field, the Dennery football field, I should say, has been, you know, on a swing between the St. Lucia Labour Party government and the United Workers' Party government. And we have been trying to get a solution, you know, to get this field completed. And during my first term in office, between 2006 and 2011, a start was made. It was not completed. I was told by my then Prime Minister that, you know, we would start the fencing, and by the time we return into government, nobody expected us to lose the election. But we did. The government, that is. I won my seat. But we were in opposition. I was in opposition. Okay? I won my seat. Our party was in opposition. And during that time, when the young people of Dennery went to Mr. Sean Edwards, who spoke here, or the member for Dennery North, sorry, Mr. Speaker, who spoke here earlier on, and who presented himself maybe like a Peter, who built a church. That church is in Denver, by the way. He claimed, so the people went to him, and he told them, what he told them was that, I'm not going to do anything for you. I am not going to do anything for you. If I do anything for you, if I fix your sporting facility, that will make Estefan look good. Imagine that. And I've spoken about that before. And this is the same person today who are talking about their concern about the young people. Looking at color. And I have also said this before. When you do something in a constituency, you're not doing it for me. If I do something in a constituency, I'm not doing it for myself. As a matter of fact, I will do everything that is good, and I will forget immediately that I did it, because I didn't do it for myself. Okay? Now, this is somebody who Pat. This is somebody who came into politics realizing that I was on a good path. This is somebody who stayed outside in the secondary school in Dennery and realized, boy, what Estefan is doing for his people is good. I should go into politics too. And he said that openly to all of his friends. And he also said that the way that this man is behaving, he cannot lose election. He said all of that. So what I do it for my people. As Minister of Sports, I want St. Lucia to benefit from the development of sports. It's not about me anymore. I run, you know, all my races before. The only thing I run now is politics. I'm not in sports anymore. I'm in sports. The sports that I'm in is to develop the young people of St. Lucia. The sports that I'm in is to develop St. Lucia as a sporting destination. The sport that I'm in right now is to make sure that we have world-class facilities in St. Lucia. The sport that I'm in now is to make sure that all our young people benefit from what we do as politicians. This is my sport. So it's not about me. I have been looking good from time immemorial. So, Mr. Speaker, these guys are not for the young people of St. Lucia. They are not.
Honorable member.
The members opposite, Mr. Speaker. They are not for the benefit of St. Lucia. They are not. And they come here pretending. They come here deceiving. Yes. Let me tell you what they do. Yes. They know that some members of the media are on their side and we'll print and we'll showcase all the lies that they say. So they come here, they say it anyway.
Honorable Member,
But they are lies, Mr. Speaker.
we are not supposed to, as honorable members, describe our fellow colleagues as telling lies, whether it's in this house or otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
So they come here, Mr. Speaker, and they deceive our people. They come here, Mr. Speaker, and they pretend. And so, knowing that whatever they portray that is so wrong will be broadcast on some media houses. And this is so wrong. This is so bad for our development. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me go to slide number 2. So, we'll go through them very quickly. I think it's not working. So, this slide shows a map of St. Lucia. Okay? So, Mr. Speaker, the government of St. Lucia, guided by the Packer Company, has offered a solution guide towards fundamentally improving and upgrading 3 to 4 sports facilities in every constituency. This may total 40 to 70 modernized, sustainable venues down from the existing 150 existing facilities. And as I get there, Mr. Speaker, I also need to say to the general public, to every St. Lucian out there, that if you are working on a master plan, if you are going to decide what you do with certain facilities, if you are going to decide how you maintain certain facilities, there had to be a general pause on what you do generally. And so we took a step back and we were examining what was taking place on island. And the solutions have been found in terms of how do we maintain our sporting facilities. And we as a cabinet discussed that the best way for us to do this on a sustainable manner was for us to put this in the hands of local government. That every open space in St. Lucia is in the control of a local authority. And so the Prime Minister, in his wisdom, placed in local government $100,000 for each authority so that the open spaces on island could be maintained. What we can call, in a lot of instances, playing fields. And so the major ones, like the Darren Sammy, Viewfort, Mindo Philip Park, would remain in the hands of SSI. We also included one caveat in that, and the cabinet conclusion states that as the capacity of SSI improves and we develop more facilities of a certain standard, then SSI would be in a position to take control of the management of those facilities. So we are looking forward. And so I've always said that on island, the club's capacity needs to be improved, the association's capacities need to improve, and I even told the association that the ministry's capacity needs to be improved to be able to deliver for the young people. And we are working on this all around. And so, Mr. Speaker, these projects would be spread throughout the nation. Even if right now we can see that the 4 constituencies aligned are in the constituencies of sitting MPs, we will decentralize because we are doing a holistic development of sports facilities on island. So a lot of facilities will be touched, especially in phase 2. What we plan to do at cul-de-sac is not in a constituency of a sitting government official or government parliamentarian. All right? And that's just an example. So the next slide shows list of the 6 shovel-ready projects for 2019. Okay? Soufrière Stadium, Soufrière Ruby Estate Cricket Ground, Dennery Sports Complex, Micoud North, Micoud South, and the St. Lucia Sports Academy. The next one, the Soufrière Stadium, we individualize now. Now they say, Mr. Speaker, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So just imagine without this beautiful photo, if I had to sit there, stand there, and talk about this. You probably wouldn't even understand me. But here it is, Soufrière in its glory. When this thing is completed, this is what it's going to look like. Soufrière. The current planning is to transition this facility into the temporary and de facto national stadium for football and athletics. Now, talking about artificial turf grounds. Before, we went on a tour previously, myself, the minister from Soufrière, the representative from Soufrière, and the rep for Grozile as part of the team. And before that tour, I was thinking Dennery should have natural grass. I was going to keep natural grass in Dennery. But going on that tour, visiting the facilities, talking to the coaches at the different venues, talking to the athletes at the different venues, I realized that if I do not put this in Dennery South, and then the other constituencies have that, the Dennery people would kill me. And I do not want to die. So Dennery also is going to get an artificial turf field. I made the decision for you, Dennery. This is what you put me in the house for. So the additional components include sports courts, both indoors and outdoors, swimming pool, playing ground and sitting, and hospitality areas. And as we go from constituency to constituency, as those places are developed, you know, these are the kind of things that will happen. 5-on-5 football fields will be developed. And we see the models, we saw the models as we visited the different places over in Miami and Atlanta. Next slide. Soufrière Ruby Cricket Ground. And they say everything happens for a reason. And the young people, or the people of Soufrière, you know, they're very passionate about their cricket, and they said, boy, if we will not be able to play cricket at the stadium, where will cricket be played? And we have a very quick thinking representative for Soufrière. He went to work immediately, and this is what we came up to. And this will be funded by that same program. So the new cricket ground will be developed at Ruby Estate with additional components such as sports court and potentially a swimming pool if not located at the stadium. All right, this is where the pool comes in. So that's it for Soufrière. Next, we go to Dennery. We're getting back there. Soufriere, then Dennery, in that order. So, additional components for Dennery. The Dennery sports people already know what they're going to get. If I say tonight they're going to get a big surprise, it will not be a surprise. But they will. Small football 5-on-5 fields, sports courts for basketball, netball, and volleyball, playground, fitness area, and hospitality areas. Dennery is blessed. Side by side, one football field, one cricket field. Everything in the same vicinity. The schools, the recreational facilities, the educational facilities, a blessed area. This is an untouchable area. No matter how many containers of sporting equipment that went to my opponent in the next election can't touch me. And they say they cannot find 1 cent of money that were misappropriated, not $1. If you take containers of goods from the National Lottery and you give it to your running mate or your colleague in an election, this is misappropriation. That this is not what the money was supposed to have been spent on. And he will be found. The member for Dennery North will be found when the time is right. Next one, we're quickly moving from Dennery, and we're going to Micoud North. And the member for Micoud North has told you how happy she is. I love Micoud too, you know, Madam Rep. Micoud North will serve as a medium-sized sports park with new football pitch, new outdoor courts, and a 25-meter swimming pool, fitness area, and machines and hospitality areas. Micoud. If you drive down that highway towards the airport right now, what you see, you will not like it. And I know for a fact that next year, your sight will be glorified as you take a drive to the airport. So we will change the face of Micoud with the facility. So ladies and gentlemen, Micoud North. Micoud South. Micoud South in Deriso will serve as the small sports park with small football pitch, outdoor court, a playground, a fitness area, and a hospitality area. This is somewhere I played a lot of football, when I played football. And I remember scoring a lot of goals on that field. If the field is there already, it will be modernized. It will be brought to a certain standard. Okay? It will be like the Prime Minister of Micoud. Next one, the Grosile Secondary School National Sports Academy. Or some people say the School of Excellence for Sports. Grosile Secondary School will begin transitioning into the new St. Lucia Sports Academy. A boarding school for elite athletes from all sports. But let me just say this. This is not something that is just going to just happen overnight. We are just starting this, so it will take us a little time, okay, for us to have all the different sporting disciplines involved in this, okay? So maybe when we start, there will be 2 sports associations contributing or having athletes there. And then, we will grow it gradually. As a government, we are looking at possibly having about 4 of these on island. Okay? So the talks are still ongoing as it relates to academies in St. Lucia. So persons competing for St. Lucia national teams at the highest levels and so on will be housed at these academies. And the immediate improvements will include the immediate improvement. That's where some of the money will go. Small 5x5 football pitch, 60 meters athletics sprint track as a straight track. Who knows? We probably will give it 2 or 3 lanes, just to practice. Indoor and outdoor sports courts, cricket nets, running trail around the property, fitness area with machines and sports medicine station. And then we go to the next phase, which will be the study ready projects. Let me also mention before we head there that there are lots of other grounds on island that when it comes to maintaining or maintenance of and so on, that we will be giving some attention to. Sports is, or even facilities, maintaining facilities is a dynamic thing. So, as the member for Miku North spoke, he said something to the effect that he will not receive anything, or he will never receive anything. But that is not so. Castrisnov, sorry. Castrisnov. He said he will never receive anything. But this is a very good area, in my opinion, for us to place an artificial turf, football turf. Very, very good area. This field is used on a consistent basis, like every day. And so the people in that area will benefit a lot if they have that service. Now this is a good place too, for that place to have proper lights for the young people to recreate at nights. This is the Castries area. Everybody's at work. Okay? And so at nights would be the time for them to go out there and recreate and play the football and so on. At Laclery Field too, I played a lot of football in that area. So it is a small field, but it is a good field. If we can improve it and make it, more user-friendly. So if we can use it and make it more user-friendly.
Honorable member, please be advised you have 15 minutes in which to complete.
I'll only take 5.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Speaker, places like Mabuya Valley, okay, there's something good going on there. I think we need to enclose this area, put a fence around it, so that revenue can be collected there. And there are some other fields on island that we need to do that too. Okay? So, the study-ready projects. The following 8 projects have been recommended as the initial study-ready projects. Okay? Mabuya Valley FIFA Goal Project is the first one. Planning lights, grandstands, scoreboards, development of the adjacent field with potentially an athletics track. George Odlum Stadium. The stadium has essentially been condemned for nearly 10 years, and as we construct the St. Jude and we get back hold of this facility, then we will be able to go back in there and do what is necessary for the young people of St. Lucia. Therefore, a solution is underway to plan upgrades and new sports venues in downtown Vieux. It is envisaged that the Masnet Ground and George Odlum Stadium should be integrated in the final recommended solution for the South. The Beausejour Sports District, Beausejour. Planning is underway for that. An additional aquatics complex is planned. The tennis center would have indoor courts added to it. Sports dorms would also be added for athletes and team housing. Quickly, the Mindo Philip Marshall Ground. That might be a contentious area, but this is something that we need to discuss as a nation and find a solution for the young people of that area. These two historic venues are long overdue for a major upgrade. The entire complex will be studied to give Castries the best possible multi-sports complex. And I personally have recommended turning this area into a track and field stadium, okay, where you can also play football. Cul-de-sac National Sports Complex. And we have seen before, you know, all that and we have shown before at the sports awards, etc., all the possibilities. And I believe, you know, we are studying this and we are trying to find out what's the best we can do. And finally, if the government will agree that this is the best use that we're going to put these grounds toward. And let me just go through a short list. As the park is established, there will be venues for football, athletics, swimming, indoor sports arena for basketball, boxing, volleyball, netball, tennis, cycling, cricket, rugby, motorsports, and an expanded National Sports Academy. The second, with hotels, offices, playgrounds, and restaurants. So this is the overall plan, Mr. Speaker. And then in the years after that, we will have another set of study-ready projects where other venues will be examined. I must say that, and I have commended my colleagues for putting sports first and their constituencies second. I mean, this in itself is applaudable. And colleagues, I want to thank you for understanding. I want to thank you for realizing that what we do in sports as a government can take us to the next frontier. What we do for our young people will significantly improve their lives. When we have all these activities, when we integrate what we do in the development of these facilities with the requisite programming, then St. Lucia will be a beautiful place to live, play, and die in. Eventually, all of us must. Live, play, and work. Eventually, we'll go to Madam Minister. So, Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I want to thank you for your indulgence. I want to thank the Prime Minister, you know, for being so strategic in his thinking. I want to thank all my cabinet colleagues for participating and for realizing that we need to, as a government, be all encompassing so that we can develop sports on island on a holistic manner so that every single St. Lucian benefit at the end. So I want to wish my constituents season greetings and a joyous and prosperous new year. Okay, may the good Lord continue to bless our beautiful nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I know it's late. This is an important project, so let me try to conclude as succinctly as I possibly can in the shortest period of time. First of all, I want to thank the Minister of Youth and Sports for the effort and his team in putting this together. Because, Mr. Speaker, I had stood earlier in talking about what we came here today to do. We came here today to approve the guarantee for the loan, which is just a bridge loan, to allow us to advance the monies on monies that have been committed down the road, which are grant monies. And the fact is that the process that is being utilized here is that the implementation and the governance of this project is being done by the Ministry of Sports, Mr. Speaker. The permanent secretary in that ministry, along with the staff, are the ones that are executing the program. And as the minister indicated, the member from Dennery South indicated, that all of the associations are involved. This is not a matter in which somebody is making selections. The selection that was made was to bring Parker to the table, and in particular Mr. Lockerbie, who had done this exercise in other countries. So this is not to say that he came here to experiment in St. Lucia. Barbados did the same thing. Singapore has done the same thing. Many other countries around the world have recognized to do the same thing, which is to put a plan together. What I'm shocked at is here we are in 2018 putting a plan together and having a coordinated approach towards sports in this country. One that is not just about playing, but one about a development goal for the people and to be able to broaden the scope of our country. We have some great athletes. And I agree, Mr. Speaker, it is not just about the facilities. I've always said, you can have the most beautiful facilities, but if you don't have a proper training program, you will have bad sports in those good facilities. So it's better, in my opinion, to have good sports in bad facilities. But here we have an opportunity because of the generosity of the Taiwanese government. And as the minister has pointed out, cabinet colleagues agreed to buy into this program, to make funds available. And all we are doing is starting with 5. And the minister went through great depth to talk about why we've chosen those 5. Because each one is a different size. And it's to look at the success of each of those and then to roll those out in the remaining constituencies. And it's not about abandoning the 150 playing fields. Because what has happened in other countries, Mr. Speaker, is there's been a consolidation of assets. They, in fact, have sold some of those playing fields in order to pay for the new facilities. But we've not done that. But what we're saying is if we are going to now have a proper club system, there has to be a core of centers around the island to facilitate that and to improve the quality of sports through competition and through better coaching. And that better coaching is also coming by the academy. So this is a holistic approach that we're attempting to do. I think that one of the most grieving statements that were made on the other side is the fact to say that the private sector is not going to be part of this process. And they have had a very poor track record. What is that to say about a company like MNC's that sponsored athletics and fine arts? For how long? How many years? My same father-in-law, Duboulez, in tennis. Now, what are we going to do is by bringing $7 million into a pool to sponsor programming throughout the country, in having now a proper schedule of events. So we know when basketball is being played, we know when football is being played, we know when we're doing swimming, we know that we're doing athletics, we know when we're doing netball, we know when we're doing all these other sports on a coordinated basis. Is think for a moment that we're presenting to the private sector an opportunity where they can put in half the money. So of the $7 million, if they put in $3.5, it means for the $3.5 million, they're going to get $10 million worth of exposure. But it takes government to provide that level of leadership and the level of investment and to create the opportunity to change the mindset of the private sector people. And clearly the private sector will recognize the benefit of sports and properly organized programs in the community and the impact it's going to have on St. Lucia. So for members of the other side to just dismiss it as not even being possible tells me everything I needed to know. But Mr. Speaker, I have to say to you, the member is not here from Castries South. But I am shocked at his attempt to bring in a document that could not be authenticated and clearly was not a genuine document. And to be able to want to use that in order to influence the debate. I thought the opposition would have embraced this project because, as the member from Dennery South has pointed out, many of these projects are in their own constituencies. This, again, is not being selected on a party basis. This is about improving the national sports in total. But no, they have to somehow slight-handedly say yes, but. But I just do not want us to leave here again with even the smallest impression that this is a project in which we are putting monies in and making the decisions by ourselves. A very methodical process to determine how we're proceeding. Parker Company, and again, the member from Castries South tried to suggest that Parker has nothing to do with sports. Anybody who knows American football, the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium, Inglewood Stadium in Los Angeles Rams, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta Falcons, Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Dolphins, MetLife Stadium, New York Giants and the New York Jets, the Florida Citrus Bowl. In baseball, they do the Atlanta Braves, the Miami Marlins, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the San Diego Padres. In MLS soccer, they do the Atlanta United and the Minnesota United. In NCAA, they do indoor and outdoor track field for Penn State, one of the largest in the world. Indoor Sports Hall, Virginia Military Institute. And the list goes on of institutions that they participated in. And that's without saying that when you look at Mr. Lockerbie's biography and see where he started as a national athlete in the 400 meters and 800, was the head of the athletic program at North Carolina at the same time that Michael Jordan was there. In fact, he was giving us a story of how he helped train Michael Jordan to do the long jump, to try to win his Olympics, but at that same summer, the Olympics changed and allowed professional basketball players to participate, the dream team that went to Spain, and so he lost him as an athlete. But he designed the facility at North Carolina, in North Carolina. I went on to design many of the college facilities. So to suggest for one moment, on one hand, he says he accepts him for his talent, but he has all these other concerns. I'm sorry, that if somebody is a bluffer, they're not going to succeed in life. You would not get as far as Mr. Lockerbie did by not delivering. And so I want to put it to rest that there is nothing that the citizens of this country should be concerned about. All governed structures remain. The bureaucrats of the government are participating in overseeing and implementing this project. What Parker is doing is helping us with the design, the mediation, and coming up with an overall plan. And Parker's job is now to manage the vendors. We've said there is a significant benefit to be had if you can go out to the market and say you're going to be building 5 facilities. And that there is a plan now to build 30. So you're getting the best of the world coming in. In fact, in the bidding process that they did, they've already saved over $1.5 million from what they had projected the price to be. So, and that money, because it is grant money, is not that we're going to spend less. We're going to be able to spend the same amount of money, but get more. So, Mr. Speaker, I will end at this point to say that I wholeheartedly support this initiative. I want to again congratulate the minister and his team for a job well done. I know that many of us here are extremely anxious, and again, on my own selfish basis, to say I'm so happy about my constituency of Micoud South and Deriso that getting finally some lights and getting some facilities. The dialogue with those young people will continue so we can make the final detailed decisions in terms of what we want to be able to do. So I thank you very much, and I am looking forward to breaking ground and getting these projects implemented.
Honourable members, the question is that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow the sum of $42,400,000 from the Bank of St. Lucia Limited for the purposes of financing the 2018-2019 budget in the amount of A, $24,300,000 to finance the National Sports Infrastructure Strategy and Action Plan, and B, $8,100,000 to finance the 2018-2019 budget. Be it further resolved that A, the interest on each loan amount is payable at a rate of 4.5% per annum. B, a commitment fee of 1% is payable on the establishment of each loan amount. C, the loan amount of $24,300,000 is repayable at $1,518,750 per quarter for 4 years, inclusive of interest up to $308,576.71 per quarter on the reducing balance basis. And D, the loan amount of $8,100,000 is repayable at $506,250 per quarter for 4 years, inclusive of interest up to $102,858.90 per quarter on the reducing balance basis. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the first reading of a bill shortly entitled the International Partnership Repeal Bill.
International Partnership Repeal.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the suspension of Standing Order 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this time and at this sitting.
Honorable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Prime Minister to proceed with the bill at this sitting. And now put the question is in as many as of the opinion say aye. In as many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Proceed, Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the second reading of a bill shortly entitled the International... Sorry, I've already done that. The bill for consideration is an International Partnership Repeal Bill, the bill. The purpose of the bill is to repeal the International Partnership Act Cap 12.21. The Clause 1 of the bill provides the short title, and Clause 2 of the bill provides for the repeal of the Act. As you remember, Mr. Speaker and members of the House, on November 20th, the House considered amendments to a suite of legislation that was necessary for the compliance with the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and the European Union Tax Good Governance Standards. The amendments were to the International Trust, the International Partnership, the International Business Companies, and the Free Zone. Automatic exchange of the financial account information and companies, and the Income Tax Act. The amendments to this International Trust and International Partnership Acts had the effect of making the legislation inoperable after June 30th, 21. In addition, legislation is required to repeal these acts after that point. So the government now submits that the International Trust Repeal Act and to follow the International Partnership Repeal Act, that the effect of these acts is to repeal them in their name as of June 30th, 2021. So not only must we suspend them, but we must also now repeal them. So the objective here is to now take these acts off of our books in order to be able to now complete the task at hand of amending our legislation in order to be able to conform to the requirements of the EU and the OECD with reference to harmful taxation.
Honorable members, the question is that the International Partnership Repeal Bill be read a second time. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to repeal the International Partnership Act, Cap 12.21.
Honorable members, Clause 2.
Repeal.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Honorable members, the question is that committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I beg to report that the International Partnership Repeal Bill went through committee stage with no amendments. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read for a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and the International Partnership Repeal Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the International Partnership Repeal Act 2018.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the first reading of a bill shortly entitled the International Trust Repeal.
International Trust Repeal.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of Standing Order 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Honorable members, the question is that Standing Order 48 to be suspended in order to the Honorable Prime Minister to proceed with the bill, the remaining stages of this bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Proceed, Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the second reading of a bill shortly entitled the International Trust Repeal. Again, like the previous bill, Mr. Speaker, all we're simply doing is, now that we have amended our act to suspend it up until the 21st June of 2021, we're now asking for us to repeal the act in its entirety in order to be able to meet the requirements of the EU and the OECD as it pertains to harmful taxation.
Honorable members, the question is that the International Trust Repeal Bill be read a second time. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as the contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to repeal the International Trust Act, tab 12.19.
Honorable members, clause 2.
Repeal.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Honorable members, the question is that the committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I beg to report that the International Trust Repeal Bill went through committee stage with no amendments. Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the International Trust Repeal Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the International Trust Repeal Act 2018.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the first reading of a bill shortly entitled the Gaming Control Amendment Bill.
Gaming Control Amendment.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the suspension of the Standing Order number 48-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Honorable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Honorable Prime Minister to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the second reading of a bill shortly entitled the Gaming Control Amendment Bill. The bill for consideration by Parliament is the Gaming Control Amendment Bill. The purpose of the bill is to amend the Gaming Control Act, Cap 13.13. The bill introduces new definitions for terms used in Section 2 of the Act. Therefore, the definitions for the board and the authority have been changed to reflect the new name provided to the authority. Further, a number of new terms are defined, such as financial year, security instrument, and betting. Other terms defined are betting provider license, broadcasting arrangement, broadcast, horse race, panel, racehorse operator, race course operator license, race meeting, racing information, and trial. The definition of the finder's fee is changed in the amendment to Section 15 of the Act to clarify that this fee may be paid for arranging or negotiating an extension of credit or an increase of credit facilities with respect to financing a gaming activity. In the bill, certain provisions are strengthened, particularly as it relates to the administration by the authority and the board in Sections 4 and 5 of the Act, particularly in relation to the new name of the authority and the effect it has on the corporate status of the authority and pending transactions of the authority. For legislative certainty, Section 8, subsection 5 and subsection 11, subsection 1, Section 12, subsection 2, Section 13 and subsection 1D Section 16 and subsection 2, and Section 19 and Section 22, subsection 6, Section 24, Section 5, Section 25 and subsection 1, Section 30, Section 37, Section 38, subsection 1A, and the Section 41, subsection 1 of the Act are amended to conform with the modern legislative drafting norms and to enhance readability. The types of license that may be obtained, including that a person holding a gaming operator license cannot hold another type of license unless exempted by Cabinet, is addressed in the amendment in Section 14 of the Act. The requirement for a racehorse operator license and a betting provider license is inserted in the Act in Sections 14 and 20 of the Act. A new Part 4A that provides for appeals through racing appeal panels appointed by the Board of the Authority, and a new Schedule 2 to highlight the matters to be included in a policy on licensing scheme that a racecourse operator must develop. New provisions are added to the Act to provide for the appointment of inspectors, the engagement of consultants, contractors and agents, and new Sections 11A and 11C. A provisional license for racecourse operators and betting providers is added by the new Section 16A. An investigation fee and a recovery of that fee is provided for by the amendment of Section 18 of the Act. As it relates to bonds and security instruments, Section 28 of the Act is amended to provide that a gaming operator remains liable to file and maintain a bond with the authority for the duration of a license. However, the new provision permits the deposit of a security instrument in lieu of a bond calculated on the gaming operator's projected operating expenses. The authority is empowered to increase the amount of the bond or security instrument, or to revoke a license for not executing a bond or depositing a security instrument. A betting provider and fee and regulatory fee are added to the Act by the new Sections 30A and 30B. Additional record keeping and financial reporting responsibilities given to the authority in the amendment of Section 33 of the Act. The Minister is permitted to give policy directions in the amendment to Section 51 of the Act, an inquiry into complaints made about horse racing, and issue directions to racecourse operators in the new Section 51A and 51B. The new Section 53 provides additional ways of serving a document under the Act. Regulations may also be made by the Minister under Section 55 of the Act for prescribing conditions for the suspension or revocation of a gaming operator license and the activities to be conducted within the boundaries of a racecourse. The bill enhances the provisions with respect to the computation and payment of the cost of conducting an investigation under Section 18 of the Act. An applicant is liable for the full cost of the investigation, non-payment of which may result in the board refusing to consider an application. The bill amends Section 19, Section 22, and subsection 6, Section 24, subsection 5, and Section 25 to conform to the drafting norms and to correct referencing issues. The bill expands the record-keeping and financial reporting responsibilities on the authority under Section 33 of the Act. Also, the custodial penalty for non-compliance with an auditor's request under Section 34, subsection 3, is increased from 3 years to 10 years under this section. The bill amends 51 of the Act to remove unrelated provisions with respect to financial reporting, which are now placed with similar provisions under the Act. So, Mr. Speaker, as you can hear by some of the new terms, that we're preparing ourselves now to enter into a new era of business for St. Lucia. In essence, we're expanding the Gaming Act now to include wagering and horse racing. So as we know that we're preparing ourselves to have our first international horse race in St. Lucia, which will also be accompanied by international wagering. So as we've said, the horse races that would be displayed here will now be published internationally and be in the betting houses. And so therefore we must prepare ourselves and have specific legislation which would allow us to be able to give licenses both for wagering as well as horse racing, as well as taking this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, in cleaning up many of the discrepancies in the current Gaming Act. We've also now made and empowered the authority, or changed it from just the gaming control in order to creating the gaming authority. So again, I'm looking forward to the support of my colleagues in making these very meaningful changes to the Gaming Control Act that we have.
Honorable members, the question is that the Gaming Control Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of contrary opinions, you know. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Gaming Control Act, Cap 13.13.
Honorable members, we shall go through the bill by way of the clauses. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 1.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill.
Interpretation.
On the first, on page 5. If I can, I don't know if we normally do the title. Is that when you would do that, or we're gonna page 5?
If you want to correct because
Or should I wait
something,
until you get to that section?
no.
To 34?
If there's an error on page 5, then let's do it. Because
Okay. On page 5, we want to, on point 34, is to delete the S in sections and to strike out 249H. So it would just read insertion of new section 49A. You want to repeat that?
page 5,
34.
34.
We're removing and we're making, where it says sections, we're taking off the S, making it singular, and deleting 249H. So it just
Very
reads
well.
insertion of new section 49.4.
Very well. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Amendment of Section 4.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 6.
Amendment of Section 5.
Okay, so on this one, reference to the subsection should be subsection 5. Subsection 6 and 7 should really be merged into 5. I'm on page 13.
That's you're referring to section.
Okay, so they had it here. Okay, on page 14.
So we're now looking
Yes,
at
okay, go
section
ahead.
7.
Yep.
So section 7. And you're looking at which clause?
On page 13.
Yes.
Subsection 6 and 7 Oh, I got it. In subsection 6 and 7, right? The reference should be to section 5. Section 5 of the Principal Act is amended by deleting and heading the substituting the following heading. Is that right? Page 14.
Yes, page 14, subsection 6 and 7.
Yes.
It says,
so subsection,
currently it says subsection 2 ceases to have
right, so
effect.
number 2 needs to change to 5.
To 5.
And also the same thing in number 7. The subsection 2 needs to change to subsection 5.
Very well. Madam Clerk, you have it.
You got that?
Very well.
And then on page 15.
PM, may I suggest, because we seem to be skipping sections,
No problem.
because now we have to deal with clause 7.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
clause 7
Stands part of the bill.
Amendment to section 8.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 8.
Amendment of section 11.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9.
Insertion of new sections 11A to 11C.
That's when PM you step in with reference to clauses 6 and 7.
No.
Yes, because it falls on
Okay.
the section 9.
Okay.
Okay. Clause 10.
Amendment of section 12.
Oh, you also be no. Before we go to section 10,
Yeah, we have 11B.
Very well. Go ahead.
So in section 11C, the word authority should be in initial cap, so with a capital A. So it says where it oversees regulatory authority, the authority there needs to be a capital A.
Very well. So, wherever the word authority appears in this subsection,
Right, it says the board may, in the exercise of its functions, enter into a memorandum of understanding with an overseas regulatory authority. So the authority has to be with
yes,
a capital A.
yes, understood.
For the purpose of assisting the supervision with the authority.
Madam Clerk, you have it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so clause 9 stands part of the bill. Clause 10.
Amendment of
One sec,
section
yes,
12.
sir. So both of them authorities? Just the one? Okay, so sorry, Mr. Speaker. In clause 11C1, it's not the first authority, it's the second authority that needs to be the capital A.
With an overseas. Oh, I see. Yes, yes.
Because
So
it's our authority,
Just the first, just the second.
right? The last word, in fact. Yeah,
So let's do this.
when we read it.
Clause 9 again. Clause 9 as amended stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 10.
Amendment of section 12.
Clause 10 stands part of the bill. Clause 11.
Amendment of section 13.
Okay, we're gonna delete the reference to paragraph A and B. And section 13 should read, Section 13 of the Principal Act is amended in subsection 1, comma, by inserting immediately after the paragraph D, the following new paragraphs E and F.
Okay. Move A and B. A and B.
A and B. And E,
Yes.
yeah, delete the reference in paragraph A and B in section G. And so it really should be section 13 of the Principal Act, And the new paragraphs E and F should be just hold a race meeting, and F, offer betting on a horse race and other events approved by the board.
Section 11 as amended stands part of the bill.
Aye. Did we get that? Did we get that right?
Section 12.
Amendment of Section 14.
Okay. The subparagraph 3,
Yes.
the word semicolon should be one word, and thereafter a comma should replace the semicolon symbol. You got it? The word semicolon, remove the hyphen, and then the semicolon at the end of that should be just a comma.
So delete the semicolon and then put the comma. Very well. Clause 12 as amended stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 13.
Amendment of Section 15.
Clause 14 stands part of the bill. Clause 14.
Amendment of Section 16.
Clause 14 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 15.
Insertion of new Section 16A.
Clause 15 stands part of the bill.
Aye. We're doing 16A?
Yes, clause 15.
Okay, you did clause 15, go ahead.
Clause 15 until 16.
Yes. Well, 16A. In 16A, where the reference should be made to the race course operator. On receipt of the application for the race course operator, instead of race course, shall be with the approval of the Minister of Provisions with respect to the race course. So, in respect of a race course operator or betting provider. That's the last one, yeah. That's what he said. We're saying that the minister immediately issue a provisional license in respect of a race course operator.
So after the word race course, you need the word operator.
Correct.
Or betting provider.
Or betting provider. Yes.
Very well. Clause 14 as amended stands part of the bill.
Aye.
No, sorry. Is that what I saying right? Sorry. It should have been 15. My clause 15 as amended stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 16.
Amendment of Section 18.
Clause 16 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 17.
Amendment of Section 19.
Clause 17 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 18.
Amendment of Section 20.
Clause 18 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 19.
Amendment of Section 22.
Clause 19 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 20.
Amendment of Section 24.
Clause 20 stands part of the bill. Clause 21.
Amendment of Section 25.
Clause 21 stands part of the bill. Clause 22.
Substitution of Section 28.
Clause 22 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 23.
Insertion of new Part 4A.
So on the next page, on subsection 5, delete the comma after the word policy, and also delete the words age, nationality.
So we're now referring to 29A2, 29A5.
5. Where it says we have policy, admission policy, you take out the comma.
So delete the comma, delete the word age and nationality.
And delete the words age and nationality.
And so it continues the admission policy and other restrictions imposed under this act.
Correct. We put the comma after policy. Yeah.
So,
No, containing information on the admission policy, comma.
so
You're deleting age, nationality, and then it just goes, so it just goes comma, and then it says and. Oh, take out that.
yes, delete
Okay.
comma, age and nationality.
Oh, so delete the comma between age and nationality.
That's what you're saying.
Okay.
Very well.
But it says here, and also delete the words age and nationality. Okay, so you're taking out the 3. Gotcha. So you're leaving the comma after policy.
No.
Delete it based on what I heard from the
Delete the comma after the word policy, and also delete the words age, comma, nationality.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a long.
So, sorry.
Let me repeat.
We're reading it,
Yeah.
where it says the admission policy, there's no comma, there's no age, there's no comma, and there's no nationality. So it says the admission policy and other restrictions imposed under the Act.
Any other amendments, Mr. Prime Minister, you would like under this section, since it's a very long one?
29D.
29D. That's page 24.
Yep.
Any
On line 4. Delete the words are fit and proper persons.
that's in subsection 1.
1.
Yes.
Okay.
And replace
So
with
did the words are fit and proper person?
Right. Licensed by him or her in a person who, in the opinion of the racecourse operator, are fit and proper persons.
Delete this.
Delete those words. Are fit and proper persons, and replace them with the words is a fit and proper person. A fit and proper person.
Honorable members, you got it? You got it?
We have to take off the S, so it's no longer persons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Oh, yeah. Very well.
Sure. Page 18, go ahead. So you're replacing race course? Oh, sorry. Page 18. On page 18, members? Page 18.
Honorable Prime Minister is going back to page 18.
Page 18. In subsection 3, we're deleting the word race course and replacing it with race, or just putting race course together.
So in other words, delete the space between race and course.
Correct.
Clause 23 as amended stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 24.
Amendment of Section 30.
Clause 24 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 25.
Insertion of new sections 30A and 30B.
I have it here. Subsection.
Clause 25 stands part of the bill. Clause 26.
Substitution of Section 33.
Clause 26 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 27.
Amendment of Section 34.
Clause 27 stands part of the bill. Clause 28.
Amendment of Section 37.
Clause 28 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 29.
Amendment of Section 38.
Clause 29 stands part of the bill.
Okay, I think that we have on section 29, on subsection 9, I think it is. On page 30.
The Honorable Prime Minister is suggesting that we turn back to page 30. Is it 29, Honorable Prime Minister? Is it supposed to be page 29?
Page 29? That's
Or
not
page
subsection
30.
9. It's on page 29, subsection 9. Remove the comma after the word may. So a panel, where the comma is there, you remove it, so it reads, a panel may impose conditions in the notice under section 7. Page 29, section 9. It says a panel may, right, you remove the comma.
That was clause
20,
That was clause 23. So clause 23 as amended. Clause 30
Amendment of Section 39.
Clause 30 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 41.
Amendment of Section 41.
Clause 41 stands part of the bill. Clause 42.
Insertion of new sections 44A to 44E.
Clause 42 stands part of the bill. Clause 43.
Substitution of Section 47.
Clause 43 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 44.
Insertion of new Section 49.
49.
Insertion of new section 49A to 49H. Insertion of 49 section new section 49A.
Clause 44 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 45.
Substitution of section 51.
Clause 45 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 46.
Insertion of new sections 51A and 51B.
Clause 46 stands part of the bill. Clause 47.
Substitution of section 53.
Clause 47 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 48.
Amendment of section 55.
Clause 48 stands part of the bill. Clause 49.
Amendment of schedule.
Clause 49 stands part of the bill. Clause 40.
Insertion of new schedule 2.
Clause 40 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Honorable members, the question is that the committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
As many as are of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, the question is that the report Honorable members, I beg to report that the Gaming Control Amendment Bill went through committee stage with amendments. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg we move the report. Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question.
Sorry. My apologies, Mr. Speaker. Let me just do that slowly.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee be adopted as amended and that the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Gaming Control Amendment Bill be read a third time and pass. I now put a question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the Gaming Control Amendment Act 2018.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move for the first reading of a bill shortly entitled the Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation Headquarters Agreement.
Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation Headquarters Agreement.
Honorable members, we've come to the end of the business of the House, which started on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018. Honorable Prime Minister, I guess we all want to move on, so we jump in. But Honorable Prime Minister, you would need to indicate the next reading of the where is it? To indicate the second reading, when the second reading of the Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation Headquarters Agreement Bill.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be presented for a second reading at the next or subsequent sitting of this honorable House.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. Yes, members, I was saying that that this has been a very long long one for us all. Is it two? But I would like to take the opportunity, honorable members, unless Prime Minister, leader of government business is indicating otherwise, I think I would want to put my hat on and say that I'm making the assumption that this is the very last sitting for the year, unless some emergency and Prime Minister is giving some indication otherwise. Let me take this opportunity, therefore, to express on behalf of myself and parliamentary staff greetings to all of you. Yes, including all members of the House. The staff of NTN that broadcasts our sessions to St. Lucia and the wider world, and for staying up with us to the late hours to ensure that our proceedings are broadcast to the people that we all represent here. So I would like to express to them also our thanks and gratitude for that. Also to the police that stand at security us all and to ensure that law and order is observed, not just around the precinct of Parliament, but throughout the nation. So let's just express our gratitude to them for that. We are here and we have changed the workings in Parliament, so we have very few staff members now. But you will know that although we are here doing our thing, that downstairs we have a group of people, dedicated people that honestly offices of the Parliament. Let's also express our thanks and appreciation to them. The work of Parliament, whether it is through interviews, but the media takes our business to the people, runway besides NTN. Again, we'd like to thank them and express our gratitude to them. We have the Office of the Parliamentary Commissioner attached also to the Parliamentary Office. Also like to express our thanks to them. I've had cause over the last few months to interact with the various embassies and the diplomatic corps. That the one we have other assist us in our workings also like to express. Also to the office of the Mayor of Castries, because I always turn to them to ensure that the precincts of the Parliament is clean and proper. So I'll again like to express our thanks to them. Honorable members, as we end, has been a tiring, honestly, it's been a tiring, testing one for me personally over the last 9 months. I've enjoyed every moment of it, though. Now, tomorrow is our National Day. There is. I think there's also have a Mayor's Mass also at 8. So everybody that can attend, I'll try to do both, honorable member. So I invite all of you on behalf of honorable member and the Mayor of Castries to attend. If you can do both, the Mayor's Mass as well as the Mass in Mekun. Again, have a very good Christmas, honorable members, and a bright and prosperous new year. I look forward to the working that we shall work, even in greater camaraderie and spirit. And as I've said, when I took on this task, the civility and the way we do the business of the people. Honestly, from the first one to now, I've seen a great change. I think there's a song which says, "There is a great change since I am a rose." I'm not going to sing it, but thank you very much, honorable members, the Attorney General and his staff for ensuring that the bills that come to the Parliament is so proper. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, before I ask for the adjournment of the House, I certainly want to join in your voice with regards to thanking all of the staff members for the support that they're giving us here at Parliament. It's the little things that matter the most. I know that we really enjoy the food and your company, and certainly we appreciate every moment of the dedication of the staff here. We've, as you said, have had a marathon a session. But you know, Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that we want to thank you. We know that it has been a difficult time, particularly having no deputy speaker. And you certainly have not conducted yourself in a way in which we would think that we are grieving you in any way by depriving you of a deputy speaker. But I also want to take this opportunity really to thank the public of St. Lucia, because I know that we are all extremely humbled, and I mean that in the greatest amount of sincerity, by the opportunity they have afforded us, the responsibility that they've put on to us to be able to conduct the affairs of St. Lucia. And it's something I know that we take extremely seriously. And despite sometimes how it looks like in the House, I can assure all St. Lucians that behind the cameras, everybody gets on very civilly. And clearly, it is the purpose of both parties to be able to get their points across, but we try to do it in the least acrimonious way. And it's all done with the greatest amount of respect, despite how you see us conduct ourselves in this House. And I think that that's also a tribute to you and the guidance and the direction you've provided in this House in terms of that very right subtlety in terms of conducting the affairs of the House. But I also want to say to the public solution that I'm leaving here. I'm supposed to be two places at the same time. I'm actually supposed to be turning on the lights, which I may have to forego and ask one of my colleagues to go in my stead, because I'm also supposed to be going on Newsmaker Live. And I'm doing that simply because I know that the country is obviously very concerned with regards to the spate of crime. And I feel that I need to make myself available to the public and to explain what my government is doing to try to abate the level of crime. And clearly, I don't want anyone to believe, and certainly we don't run away from that responsibility, that we don't notice that there's been a spike in crime. And clearly, we're going to do everything we can to support the fine policemen and women of this country. And it has to be something that we're going to achieve together. The policemen cannot do this job by themselves. Politicians cannot do this job by themselves. The public cannot do this job by themselves. The justice system cannot do this job by themselves. The investigators can't. But collectively, we can make a very big difference in our country. And it's certainly the intention of my government to continue to work with everyone in terms until we can abate the scourge in our society and get where young people can respect each other and respect life. There cannot be any argument, any example where two people have to resort to killing each other to solve a problem. We can all understand and appreciate not agreeing and sometimes becoming emotional, but to allow that emotion to go over the tilt to result in killing somebody is something that we really have to investigate into ourselves in terms of what are we doing wrong and bringing people up in terms of values. And I know that there's some members on this side who feel very passionate and very strongly about family, love, and faith. And I think that we're all appreciate the Lord, and the Lord would not willingly allow people to kill themselves. And there is a message that's being sent to all of us, and a message that we must accept, that there has to be a change in how we conduct ourselves. We must take time out to appreciate each and every person and the contribution they could make to our society. And everybody who's lost, whether in a car accident or in a homicide or by a disease, is cutting that person's opportunity of making a contribution to this beautiful island that God has blessed us with. So to all St. Lucians, I want to wish you on behalf of my entire team of colleagues the greatest and safest National Day, a prosperous Christmas and New Year, and certainly to all the constituents from all the constituencies. I want to again thank you for your support, your understanding, and that we are humbled by the opportunity you've given us. I thank you. And at this point, Mr. Speaker, I beg that we adjourn the House, sine die.
Honorable members, the question is that this House do stand adjourned, sign or die. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. Are you calling for division? I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House is adjourned.